Hello and welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. 3 more races of the weekend of the Thailand Super Series await us, and we're going to be starting off with the first of our Super Pickup categories for this afternoon's racing, the C-Class drivers, before we kick on over to the A and B-Class drivers. And Goody's already down on the grid and chatting to one of the drivers towards the front end of the field. We've been chatting to a couple of the drivers across the front couple of rows. This category yesterday got some numbers for you that are worth going through. 16 drivers were classified, 8 not classified, and there were 3 separate 30-second post-race penalties that were addended onto things. Driving standards, I believe the stewards will be looking for an improvement, but it was the 18 car of Kittapong who managed to win the race yesterday by about 13 seconds, backed it down on the final lap just to look after the car because there was no pressure on him. Nutapong from Super Mongkol rounded out your podium. And in terms of your grid, Super Mongkol sits on the second row of the grid for this one. Nutapong and Kittapong immediately in behind him, but so much in the way of issues for drivers. We're looking like it was about a third of an attrition rate, the third of the field from both of our super pickups effectively having issues yesterday, Dan.
Having just run the numbers, indeed, a 1/3, a 1 in 3, yeah, 1 in 3 attrition rate is a pretty nasty number to end up with, but that's what the field we're dealing with. Yeah, as you said, and the fact it's both Division 2 here with the Class C drivers, and up in Division 1 for the Class A and Class B drivers combined. So pretty wild, and another pair of 12-lap races here today to sort this out. So could go one of two ways in that respect then. This could be fairly straightforward. This could also be absolutely bonkers. Unfortunately, we're just going to have to wait and see how that all plays out as a result.
Yeah, so it's going to be time to sort of sit down, calm yourselves down and focus. I think the biggest thing is just making sure you survive. Goody was just chatting to Arna Fap out of the 77 entry for King Performance, who starts out of P2. He'll step one step further back and chat to Super Mongkol now. And for Super Mongkol, like we said yesterday, 3rd place finish. He sits 3rd place on the grid, so reasonably consistent in terms of pace across the weekend. Going to have to make sure that he looks after the tyres yet again in this race, doesn't fall off too far, and positions that truck in a reasonable, capacity as well. I think it's survival. It's just making sure that there's no contact on that lap 1, so you've got a car that you can really contest with throughout the duration. Looking after the tires, I think, is so critical for this category as well. You're going to see multiple seconds with the lap time fall off, so just making sure you're within the window is the big key.
Yeah, without a doubt, the pace differential, and we're seeing it in quite a few categories. That the way the Hankook tyre is sort of, it looks like it has a bit of a peaky performance profile in these, especially because we're on the Ventus RS3, the semi-slick tyre. So it's got good pace potential, but also you can easily overdrive it. And if you overdrive it, you'll then be falling backwards even in these 12-lap sprints. That's still 20-odd minutes of racing. For these guys here, this could be easily on 25+ minutes. So yeah, and we only have a 30-minute window to get the race done as well. So there's a whole lot of things to consider in and amongst all of that too, as to exactly how it's going to play out exactly. And yeah, being very mindful of how you race your truck is going to be important.
So Sarah, I'll get the camera down on and say hello to him. And the grid as well starts at a 6th spot at this point in time. Kittasak will be the next driver out of the 52 entry as we work our way backwards. And for the 52, yesterday's race results, 5 minutes, by the way, in terms of grid, finished 7th, so starts one step further forward than he did yesterday. Fastest lap time for that truck, though, was only a 2:02.4, so, reasonably found his way back through the field, just through issues for other cars. So if he can find some pace again today, number 9 machine that will step our way back to is Krok Pong. He'll start out of 9th position. How's that for the number 9 appropriately starting on the grid? And the next one will be Wataya, which will be the back end of the top 10. And I like this, Dan. I always like walking back along through our grid just to see the guys getting comfortable and enjoying themselves inside their racing cars.
And I mean, yeah, the fact that we do get a chance to actually to check in momentarily with every single driver on the grid, especially we've got 5 minutes until we're going to pull away, or this point might be about 4 or so minutes now till we pull away for the start of the formation lap. That's still plenty of time to get through the drivers here. 24 truck field. We're currently with Itasak set to start 12th place. We're about halfway through the field. There's plenty of time to be able to therefore go through every single one here on the grid. Mix in some shots here to show the field on the whole. As we're back already now at Somluk Piantam. And yep, that's definitely a good idea. Aim to go forwards in the number 79 truck because you are starting 13th place. So definitely the best way to probably go about it.
Yeah, Rooster, we were talking about at one point yesterday, had some issues. I believe he dropped the rear end of that truck and went for a spin at one point. Would it shine out deeper in the field? 15th spot on the grid for the 69 entry. The Motor Racing team. D-Tax Max Thailand entry will be the next one of Pichar, the number 97 car. As we're working our way towards the back end of the top 20 now. The 82 of Crid Sub in the Chevy Colorado for Fatman Performance will be the 82 entry at a 17th spot. And there was some issues with that truck yesterday, unfortunately, parked up and not finishing the race. Looks like they fixed that one up overnight. '26 machine of Tassanai Jomun, one of the other Azuzu D-Maxes. 26 truck will be out of 18. 3 minutes left in terms of formation times as well, by the way, as everyone starts to walk away from the grid. 12 machine of Pecorn will be the second last car inside the top 20. And rounding out your top 20 of 24 cars will be Methawin in the 51 truck. Shuts the door, bolts himself in, eyes forward, gets excited to go racing. So we say hello and welcome back to all our viewers that are tuning back in after the lunch break here from Bung Sen. Promote the 20 truck will be the first one outside the top 20. 21st on the grid for him. And the 34 entry. 22nd, I believe, on the grid for Akachat. I think it was actually one of the trucks not to set a time. Will actually be 23rd for Akachat. And finally, final truck on the grid, the 35 of Suradet will be off the back row of the field for Alpha Factory Racing Team as well, Dan. So that's our 24 trucks. I am going to expect to see a few holes in the grid, just given how many trucks we lost yesterday from this race. And the difficulty is trying to get parts, get the truck fixed up and go back racing. I've had about 24 hours to get it back together. So I do hope most of them are back out there.
Well, I mean, as you pointed out, for example, our last place driver on the grid, Suradet, was actually the first car to retire from yesterday's race. So good to see he's on the grid as the start engine call is given. And 1 minute till we roll away here for the formation lap as well. So I don't actually recall seeing too many gaps. And to be honest, this all looks pretty... I mean, we're about halfway through the field at this point. That's probably about 7 or 8 rows or trucks there all filled up. So I think we're looking pretty good here for getting most, if not all, of the 24 trucks that attempted yesterday's race. Only 16 were classified as finishing. And the 24 trucks, therefore, here to start race number 2. Race 6 of the weekend. Race 6 championship, race 2 of the weekend. I'm going to get that wrong one way or another, it seems, unfortunately. And get ready to bring all the racing action here for another 12 laps. If we stay green, because as we saw in Super Pickup Division 1 yesterday, Scott, a couple of safety cars and you don't get all your scheduled laps in as a result because we are pretty close to time certain around here.
Yeah, so 12 laps, the duration of the race. They'll head on off on their formation lap to get themselves sorted and hopefully locked in and ready to go racing as well. So a form up, put some heat in the tyres, probably not too much. And worth noting as well, after those results that we had come in yesterday, C-Class driver settings 54 is Saran Yu. I don't actually think he finished the race yesterday. I think he might have been... no, he did actually finish 6th place for Saran Yu, so did score some points yesterday, but he was leading the way in terms of championship standings on the way in. Super Moncol, though, sat second, and he picked up a podium, so probably a change for your championship leader. Kittapong as well in that 18 truck was quick yesterday. Also another podium for that driver. So championship standings are going to be incredibly tight. As it currently stands, we don't have live points, unfortunately, to bring you here this afternoon. But results were close. Going to continue to be close, I think, as this championship winds down to the grand finale at the back end of the season. Race number 6 for your super pickup drivers on the way out to the grid. Sung Chai would take pole on the front row in the 90 machine alongside of Arnafap in the 77. Super Moncol and Nudapong are going to take up row number 2. Kittapong and Saran Yu on row number 3, 18 and 54 truck, alongside of Kittasak and Chai Watt, row number 4, 7th and 8th, 52 and 28. Top 10, Krekpong and Wutsaya, 9 and 42. Tirasak in the 19 entry, alongside of Itasak in 12th. 13th and 14th, 79 of Somnuk, alongside of the 33 of Rusta in 14th, Woodachai 69 in 15th, and Pichai in the 97 out of 16th. 17th and 18th is going to be Crid in the 82 and Tassanai's 26 entry. Pecorn will be the 12 machine out of 19th, and rounding out your top 20, the 51. Promote will be 21st and the 20. Aaron in the 10, 22nd. Akachat in the 34, 23rd. Suradet in the 24, and I believe that's the entire field as they make their way on through. The semi-slick tyres proudly brought to us by Hankook as well, in full operation for this afternoon's racing action as well. Presents an interesting racing opportunity, Dan, where the tyres do fall off and not overdoing the tyre, being balanced, not spinning tyres, not overloading tyres on big heavy trucks. Difficult prospect.
Yeah, 100%. We've seen it yesterday. You've seen it obviously previously in the season. Yeah, these things are a handful in the best of times. And when you start combining things like the slower corners around here where you want to get the power out, but you've got a very torquey diesel under your right foot, that can be a little tough to master as we come around the final turn. And yellow flags are still out here, so I get the feeling we are getting set for a standing start. You know, my apologies. I kind of was expecting a rolling start, but no, of course, the pole sitter is sitting on the right, our left-hand side of the track, right-hand side when we're looking back towards the final turn. So, of course, that'll mean standing start here for our D2 pickup trucks. Not sure why I was expecting a rolling start. Did they do a rolling start yesterday? If they did, that'll explain why.
Righto.
Anyways.
They're formed up now, Dan. 24 trucks ready to go racing, and I think there is one gap on the left-hand side of the field. No, I think one of the other cars was still rolling forwards, so still trying to form up into that grid. Right, 24 trucks for your C-Class Super Pickup. Most of the trucks are going to be Euro Zuzu new D-Maxes. And we'll get lights on the front. I believe gears have just been selected for the start. Did see somebody's truck start to form up. 2 lights are going to come on. 3, 4, 5. We're going to be waiting for the lights to go off. The run down at turn number 1, and the super pickups all launch their way down. And have a look at the wheel spin off of the second row. It's the drive from row number 3. And I think it might have been Kittapong in the 18 truck who surges from 5th on the grid to 2nd when they make it down to turn 1. 3 wide. A little bit deeper in the pack. But again, Sungchai just launches off and uses all the available room as everyone trying to make some space off the run through turn number 1. The run down at turn number 2, and now down and onto the back straight as well. Onto the run down at turn number 3.
A couple of, as I said, big movers towards the from the 2nd and 3rd rows there, getting good jumps. One of the big losers out there at the start of that one there, the 58 of Super Moncol. He went backwards quite a ways there off the start, starting 3rd, and is now sitting back in challenging for, well, I guess a group of 2nd, but he's effectively, I think, 5th at the moment, or it might be 4th now as he gets the run up towards turn number 4. As that's that battle group for 2nd, and it's Saran Yu starting P6, who jumps off the P2 half a lap in to this first of 12. Should we be able to make the distance here in Division 2 of our Thailand Super Pickup Trucks.
I think one of the big points here is points on the table for Saranu. He's got to try and keep the championship hunt alive, potentially put him back in the lead heading into the final round of the season. Albeit 3.5 months into the future, they'll be thinking about this one. But for now, lining themselves up on the run down to turn 8, turn 9. And warnings are already for track limits being issued to the number 90 machine that leads the way. That would have been just a warning for excessive use of the track limits. You'd have to feel at turn 1. It always boggles the mind how much space they're allowed to use on turn 1. Lap 1, the run down through 9, 10 and 11. And again, trying to line up a move around the outside goes the 58 machine. Super Moncol's going to try and go the long way round at the final corner. The 18 machine, he's going to use all the space and then a whole bunch more, and the truck to his inside as well was Arnafap trying to get away, lock himself in. Now it's going to be the run down to turn number 1. I wonder whether or not the 18 might have missed a shift. Kittapong had a few issues with drive on the run down to turn number 1. They'll sort themselves out. Somebody feeding off into the pit lane in the background, so we'll already have a retirement. It was the 12 trucker, Pecorn, already making his way to the pit lane. I think we might have lost Saranu. In the 54 truck, might have had some dramas, and the 10 truck of Amarum's already gone to the pit lane as well. And we did have one non-starter, which was the 20 machine to promote. So 23 trucks did take the start of this race.
Well, that there is Saranu fighting with the 90 of Sang Chai for the race lead, but then poor run around the outside of turn 3. In fact, 3 trucks already coming into the pit lane there. So that's quite... Nope. Yep, 3 trucks in, and they're followed in by the safety car. As front of the field here, Sang Chai leads. Is now Supermon Cole up to second. Saranu dropping back there on the run through turn 4. Let's see here. Is this a possibility for an issue? As you said, fate that 58 or 54 trucks already faded pretty substantially in the back half of yesterday's race. If he's fading now on lap 2, that's a really bad sign if he wants to be able to try and hang on for the rest of it. Because here you go, already about to be swallowed up by the 77 of Arnafap for 3rd place. He will cover it off though into turn 8, so delay that for at least one more corner around this lap. You can see, it just looks like he's just so slow in the background there in the red and black.
Whether or not he's trying to underdrive the car a little bit, look after the tyre as much as he possibly can, prevent the excess heat from getting into it. And remember, one of the big things about Super Moncol, lots of pace early on and then falls quite a way off in the back half of the race. So he is extremely quick at this point in time. Fastest Sector 1 time, fastest Sector 2 time of the session thus far. Sector 3 was just a little bit off the pace as he comes out to the start-finish line, and now the run out of the final corner as well. And Arnafap's really working those rear tyres hard. That'll be a problem later on into this race. 2 laps now complete for Super Pickup Class C. And the order, Sang Chai from Super Moncol, Methawin in P3. I believe that actually might be Saranu, who is sitting in P3. And 51 machine of Methawin, and now the 18 of Kittapong still trying to look for an opportunity, perhaps trying to pick up a little bit of air down the inside. And to the inside, Super Moncol on the run down to turn number 3. He's going to take away the race lead.
Yeah, pretty comfortable run. There's another truck into the pit lane. Is that 5 trucks that have hit the pits? Yeah, I think it might be. So that's a lot of people. That's a lot of tyres, and that's a lot of lock-up, and that's a truck in the grass on the inside. Tassanai, we don't see people on the inside of the apex of turn 3 all too often, but we'll have to see if we get a chance to spot how this has happened here on the run in. Oh, hello.
Locked a brake on the way in and just rotated the rear end.
Yeah, I guess you can see the tyre tracks. Yeah.
So it's very early on in the braking zone. He's gotten quite sideways with that car. Either way, some sort of an issue for the 26 machine. The big key for me is, does he make it to the second timing line? And indeed he has made it to the second timing line. So still running, still in this race. One driver who's not in the race anymore will be the 28 entry.
Chai Watt was running 8th at the start of lap 2 here, so that's really bad to see that.
And big handfuls, these cars as well. We're just watching Arnafap and 54 machine of Saranu both going at it with a little bit of attitude in the car, and this is the problem for Arnafap is right here. Is that he tends to get a lot of wheel spin out of the last corner. You can just see the amount of drive he gets because he very, very quickly makes a lot of time on Saranu. And Kittapong starting to make some time in that 18 entry. Coming back towards these guys just a little bit. And there's another car in the background, the 34 entry now of Akachat into the lane.
Don't forget, that's the driver who, what's your pardon me, Akachat. I think it was one of, oh, sorry, Akachat was on, I think, to win yesterday's race. It was competitive, but retired on the 11th lap. Or retired with 11 laps complete as Anu Fap on the brakes into turn 3. Got that car all kinds of crossed up, and yeah, updates still coming through from race control. Because note this, your race leader, who was, sorry, is Superman Cole, but Saint Chai here all of a sudden has just dropped from 2nd to 4th. He's fallen a long way back. Because he was 2 seconds off the race lead at the timing line. He's then dropped another 3 odd seconds to now fall back to 4th. He's not 5th. Troubles possibly for the 90 truck, as we'll see here. I don't think he was in shot there. Yeah, he's pulling off.
So lots of dramas. Oh, and look at the volume of steam coming out the front end. That looks like a radiator that's gone, unfortunately. And very, very quickly extracting him out of the car. Warnings now for black smoke for 33 and 77, which we've already lost the 33 truck. So that will resolve itself. Indeed, I'm registering 1, 2, 6, 7 cars already into the pit lane, including Arnafap in the 77. So that'll be the drive-through penalty for the 77 machine. Come to the lane to serve that one. 42 was Wataya, was sitting in the middle of that pack, and another truck in it, that's Promote returning to the pit lane. And that's Arnafap coming down through the pit lane in behind these guys as well.
Yeah, so lots of trucks. I mean, yeah. First two black smoke reports for 33 and 77. 33 is Rustamali, who was scored at 15th last lap around. So I think actually, contrary to your statement, might have still been out there and running, but now going to have to come down the pit lane. Let's look a little further back down the road. This is actually now the battle for potentially 8th, if not 7th. Actually, it will be 7th because there comes Arno Fat back out of the pits. This is Somnook, Krekpong. They're followed by the 26 of Tassanai. Is going to cover off Arno Fap, sorry, down towards turn 3. And also have a chance at making up the inside of Krekpong. Space is given. And place is taken. Maybe gets the second on the exit of the corner from the 79 of Somnook as well. 2x2 on the run to turn 4.
Yep, run out of turn 4 now. And it's just about getting the horses to the ground as 3 of the 4 trucks managed to do so reasonably. I think it might be Krekpong who's just dropped off the back end of these guys. Looking after those tyres, 26 of Tassanai. Runs very, very deep and very wide down at turn number 5. Trying to hang on to that one. 79 now. Somnook's going to get an opportunity. Takes to the grass just to make sure he doesn't make contact. Presents an opportunity now for Arnafap to try and get down the inside. Runs very wide now down at turn 7. Look for the crossbacks. Forces the cover. And they'll all line themselves back up and in for the entry to turn 8. You can just see the rear end. It transitions. The weight balance transitions very quickly in the 77 car as well. A lot of problems with the initial loading on turn in. This seems to be where the bulk of the battling's going on in the field at the moment. Super Moncol set quite a number of extremely quick laps, and the 28 machine of Chai Wat was into the pit lane, back out of the pit lane, and back into the retirements category.
Yeah, that's unfortunate to see there for him. But, yeah. Oh! Race leader, I believe. Yep, that's the 58. Super Moncol. Lightning fast at the start of this race. It looks like Scott, he's paid the price though, and maybe run himself a little bit too close to the red line.
A little bit too close to the... Trundle past because he set the fastest lap time of the race at 1:55.703. And he was seconds faster than anyone else that was out there and circulating. So what does this look like? Comes out of turn 1. And just a ton of smoke, and he knew straight away.
Yeah, that's dumped a fair bit on the road, quite possibly. And so that in turn means that Saranyu inherits the race lead after what looked like a very... Okay, looked good on lap 1, but then backed off immediately, it seemed. Turns out that might have been the right call to manage the car as a spin in turns 10 and 11 for the 33 of Rustam Mali. We had a black flag for excessive smoke. Once again, unfortunately, the trucks here in Super Pickup really demonstrating that it does seem to be more a game of making your equipment last than being the fastest in racing conditions.
Got to have a truck in order to finish first. First, you must finish. You must have a truck underneath you and somebody feeding off to the side at the back end. I wonder whether or not that might have been Rustam Mali. We did just see around in that area of the track. It might have been Pichai, actually. And
that's
that was
Arnafap. They're dropping like flies. And he's going to get out of the truck. Are we going to need to have a safety car? Surely, because it's too close to the racetrack. And we've seen these trucks, they are not afraid to be pushing it through the corner to the point of running awfully wide on the exit of turn 9 there into turn 10 where he's parked up. Just as we watch there, Songnuk gets past Krekpong on the run to turn number 1. But can Krekpong get back alongside as they head up towards turns 2 and 3? He tried, but by the looks of that that Mitsubishi Triton does not have the legs of the 79 down the straight here.
Problem I have with this, Dan, is if we go yellow flag, they're going to have to try and resurrect so many of those trucks around the circuit. That might just be the end of the race with 6 laps already done. Currently, Saranyu has already ticked off those 6 laps. Kittapong's close to within 5 seconds of him now, but still finding time is the 54 truck on the most recent lap. Ran a 58.225 against Kittapong's 59.512, and they've managed to move that truck, so we will stay green.
Oh, that is impressive indeed. As we watch Saranyu lap the 33 of Rustam Mali, and that's now Ruster on my timing. Now the timing isn't quite seen. You can see here on the timing tower on broadcast was last scored as being in 15th place. Let's just see here. We might get an update in a second as drivers have retired and such. Right, so the bottom half of the field is either retired or been lapped by your race leader now. Yeah, if we thought the attrition yesterday was bad, it looks like today it's worse.
It's worse, yep. Yeah, for sure. And my word, I think the big thing is, yeah, down to Super Moncol, because he's gone missing. Arnafap's gone missing. I wonder whether or not they did get that car back behind the wall. Pichai's still out there, and I think circulating at this point in time. He's on an outlap. And Akachat's actually managed to get that truck back out there, the 34 entry as well, so he might be trying to pick up a bunch of points. But, yeah, my word, I can't believe we've gone through somewhere around 12 trucks of the 24 with issues. That's ridiculous. And I think there's Somnuk in the 79 truck, the Isuzu D-Max, has also been through the pit lane at some point in time as well. And the 82 truck now pulls up, and that looks like that's on the start-finish straight. And the 79 re-entering the track is actually Somnuk. So he was in the pit lane and rolling again, right as we saw that one.
Alrighty then. Over half distance complete. But everyone fanning, well, not like fanning out, I should say, because, well, actually, this is 2 trucks that I don't think are position timing. Actually, no, my bad. Take that back. Tassanai is caught up to and past Batai here for 5th place on the road. You can see that somewhere in the order of 30 seconds off the race lead at this point. There's into turn 5. Bit of a handful there for Tassanai, but gets it pulled up and pointing the right way on corner exit. And then try and get your way through the middle of the racetrack here before you get into sector 3. And try and come back around to finish the lap. It's, yeah, this is just quite the race indeed. We're looking here, so you can see on the timing tower, best lap times from everyone in the race. You can see how many trucks who don't really have a fast lap time under their belts here, but have made their way into the top half of the field by virtue of not, well, struggling. Goodness me, the steering lock from Wataya there. That was all kinds of a handful there, trying to get that thing turned through turns 9 and 10. Scrubbing the front of those tyres.
Yep. Race not over at this point in time, though. 4 more laps left to run, as these guys will cross the start-finish line this time by. I'm starting to keep an eye on just sort of lap times that are indeed falling off. Krokpong Ratana has just done his fastest lap of the race in the number 9 entry, 2:03.233. It's actually taken a second out of the car ahead of him on the road, which is Wataya. And we just saw Wataya get passed as well by Tassanai. Tassanai just ran a 2-minute flat. Now, the problem for Tassanai is he's about 10 seconds behind Suradet for 4th place, and there's only 4 laps left to run, so Suradet is starting to fall a little bit off in terms of his lap time. The top 4 are just basically separated. It's going to take a mechanical issue for those guys to have something change. But Wataya ran a 2:04.1 and has fallen off significantly. Woodachai just took 15 seconds out of Somnook on that most recent lap, but that was a lap where Somnook went through the pit lane.
Yeah, do not forget that for a black smoke pass, I believe. Speaking of drivers with the black smoke infringement, the 33 of Rustam Mali, I think that's the second time I've seen. Yeah, it's the second time the 33's received the black smoke flag, as the number 19 of Tirasak now into the pit lane from what was 10th as he crossed the start-finish line. And out comes the Jack. But here comes a spare tyre, so issue here for the front right corner there, as it's going to be 3 laps to go for your race leader now as he comes around. 9 laps on the board. Kittapong in behind and does not have an answer, it seems, at the moment on rate pace. 58.2 for your race leader, so he's still decently quick versus a 2:01.8. So relatively speaking, Saranu is just pulling away out front. Just makes you wonder. You hope he's not overdriving it, like we saw from, say, Moncol at the start of this race.
Yep. Doesn't need to set the world alight in terms of lap times. A 12-second margin. He can lose 4 seconds a lap and be quite comfortable. At this point in time, the 33 truck not in contention. More trucks feeding back out of the pit lane, and it's just sort of keep your eyes a little bit deeper in the field for the issues that are going on. Rustam Mali, after having 2 drive-through penalties here, is potentially going to finish close to being inside the top 10 if he can just keep circulating. Is not a bad deal in terms of things, but the retirements list is just heavy with issues for a whole bunch of drivers. The 79 now receives a black and white flag for exceeding track limits as well. This is your 50, who is sitting in 3rd place, getting down the inside of the lap truck of Rustam Mali. 12 also just circulating at the back end of the field at this point in time as well. Not for position is Pakorn Temachot. He is unfortunately just circulating to make sure that he can keep picking up laps, because he does. He'll catch 2 more cars on the lap that he's currently on and actually overtake them. So I can't. That's one of the weirdest races I've ever seen in terms of retirement. We saw some issues yesterday, but I've never seen anything like this.
No, unfortunately, this is definitely a little out of the ordinary when it comes to attrition. Like, we've seen a couple of trucks here and there, but this is, yeah. In fact, trying to keep an idea of roughly how many are still circulating. Officially, only 6 trucks have stopped running and are lost, according to the timing and scoring software. So that would imply that there's still 18 out on track. Pardon me. 6 have basically retired on track. Another 4 are in the pits in various fashions, including the 33 here of Rustam Mali, but this is for a black smoke thing, so it should be able to go straight through and come back out. So that would change that there. So apparently attrition is about similar to yesterday. It just doesn't feel like it, at least not at this stage.
Well, I think there's more out than that. So you've got 4 cars that have been in the pits for an extended period of time at this point in time, plus the 7 now that I'm seeing with question marks against their names. So that's 11 trucks effectively that I know aren't circulating. There's a few trucks that are actually on out laps at this point in time. So a few trucks are trying to get back out there and at least pick up a couple spots. What it doesn't change though is Saren Yu at the moment circulating comfortably in the race lead. Holds the lead by 13.5 seconds. And the only advice that I'd be giving him at this point in time is you don't need to win it by a country mile. You just need to win it by 1,000th of a second. So just make sure that everything's okay and that you're going to make the end of the race. Don't pop a tyre. Don't overpressure something. Nice and smooth. You've got this one under control. Just make sure you take the race win.
Yep. Well, he'll be happy to see, I believe, the final lap board there at the timing line as he heads on down the start-finish stretch. And that looks like a nice, very gentle run into turn 1. So I think hopefully he'll have got the memo because, yeah, his gap there to second place in Kittapong, 14.6 seconds. It's actually still growing. He did a 2-minute .0, so he has slowed down just only gradually. Yeah, as Nudapong there in the number 50 truck, third place on the road, another 11.7 seconds behind Kittapong. And himself doesn't have too much pressure because there's Suradet for fourth. They're coming across the line at 8.7 seconds behind the 50 truck. So top 5, it's all nice and spread out. They all just need to bring it around and they can collect the points. And there's Saranyu already working his way up towards turn 4. His final lap of his weekend in Thailand Super Pickup Division 2. And that looks quite gentle through there now. I think the memo has been received from you, Scott. He's been listening in.
I think he finally backed it down in Sector 2 as well. We'll get the lap time through this sector of the track. Yeah, he's much slower. He's fallen off probably about a second compared to where he was last lap by because it just didn't need to pull the time out of this car. And the quiet run down through turn 8. Take a race win. There is a battle that's going out on track between Kurokpong in 7th and Wataya for 6th. And Kurokpong did take about 0.6 of a second out of him on that most recent lap, but did not have a great first sector. So he's definitely lost time in the first sector, has Kurokpong. Whether or not he can respond and try and steal that position as well is a different matter. We'll wait for the times as they come through sector number 2. But in the meantime, Saranyu to the final corner. Comfortable race win. Very, very easy on the final lap as he makes sure that the truck survives. The 54 truck is going to bank some points, and hopefully that will be enough to put him back to the lead of the championship as they head into the final round. Could be a little bit of a statement drive. Kittapong has a successful weekend in Buriram as he manages to take a first and a second from both races. That's a boatload of points for the number 18. We now wait for third place to come across the line. I think it's going to be the 50 machine of Nudapong who gets the job done on the final lap of the race. Third place for him. Now we will wait 20 seconds to find Suradet, and I'm really interested to find out what happened to Kurokpong and Wataya on the final lap of the race. As through Suradet comes to receive the flag. Tass and I will follow him home. Did manage to run him down on that final lap. Took 10 seconds out of him. There was an issue for Suradet in that last lap, but manages to get it home in 4th. And now we wait for Kurokpong and Wataya, and it's going to be a change of positions. Kurokpong will steal 6th spot on the final lap of the race, Dan.
Yeah, nearly 2 seconds fast on the final lap was Kurokpong. So check that one off the box and see here. Actually, look to see. I'm seeing, according to timing at this stage, only potentially 8 trucks finishing on the lead lap. Rustam Mali in 9th place finishes 1 lap down on your race leader. Pichai in 10th place, 2 laps down on your race leader. That's how much trouble drivers have had, it seems, in this race, even though they did finish in some of those cases. So that is kind of crazy when you think about it, to see that many drivers struggle. As that there is your top 10. Which doesn't quite match up with what I've seen in my timing. It's just also updated. So according to my timing now, Kurokpong 6th is correct. Wataya 7th is the same. But Somluk up to 8th, Wutachai to 9th, and Rustamali down to 10th, which would put 10 drivers all on the lead lap. Oh, sorry, top 9 all on the lead lap, and then Rustamali 10th place a lap down. Either way, we might try and get the race results later on today once they're all confirmed, and we can maybe clarify all of that one there. But yeah, a bit of a dramatic one there, Scott.
15 trucks took the checkered flag,
That
circulating on the final
see.
lap. However, there'll only be 14 of them that will be classified. Remember, it goes 75%. Actually, it won't even be that. It'll be 13 of them that'll be classified because you've got to finish 9 laps to be classified. Nakachat in 13th was the final of those drivers to be classified. So effectively, 11 drivers will fail to be classified from race number 6.
It's a pretty wild day out, as looks like that was an onboard camera. Unfortunately, we didn't get a chance to see during the race. But there's your top 3 parked up in the pit lane now. And it's a job well done, it seems, for Saran Yu in particular there. Because, I mean, the fact that when he started out there, lap 1 looked all right, but then suddenly all of a sudden lap 2 backed off big time. It's like, so is he nursing it, or does he have a problem? I guess we won't know until later. Lo and behold, the answer appeared to be nursing the truck to make sure he didn't have any problems with it. And as a result, was rewarded handsomely. That's looking at the championship standings coming into this weekend. That is his first win of the season, if you can believe it. Has a 2nd place and a 3rd place last time they raced here at Chang, and did finish 6th in yesterday's race here for Class C. So good move back up the order, and yeah, that should hopefully solidify a good championship position given the retirement of Super Mongkol from today's race, despite a 3rd place finish yesterday as well.
Well, basically, the big thing is that pretty much the nearest rival that did actually score points today was the 18 of Kittapong, and I believe he was actually race winner from yesterday. So he banked a large bank of points over Saran Yu, but that'll be responded to in kind. And the 18 truck finishes 2nd here today. So successful weekend, a race win and a P2 from 2 starts. Here on the weekend for Kittapong. Be very, very happy. That'll put him back in championship contention. 35 points will take him to 68.5 points after half points are awarded for the race at the 2nd of the 2 races from the Bang Seng Grand Prix weekend. Moves him a long way forward in terms of his points total. Has the potential as well. I think that might move him to the championship lead over probably Saran Yu. It's going to be quite close because you're talking to the driver who sat 5th in the championship coming into this round. Well, he'll pick himself up a 3rd place finish for Nurapong. And yesterday coming away with a 2nd place finish, so 27 points for him will move him all the way up to 53 points as well. So he'll be quite close to the top. Actually, probably will sit 3rd in terms of championship standings, all things considered. So not a terrible weekend at the office for him. But yeah, that shuffles the championship quite dramatically heading into the final round later on in the year as well.
Yeah, well, unfortunately, we don't have points to confirm yesterday's results, but you could sort of do a bit of arbitrary, well, not arbitrary, but a bit of quick maths based on yesterday's results, which are the official final results. So, for example, Kittapong was on 33.5 points before the weekend. Gets 20 points for yesterday's race win, so would have jumped to 53.5. But finishing up here today, and finishing up here today in 2nd, another 15 points. So that would put Kittapong on 68.5 points. So that's going to be a strong position. In fact, that might even actually that might be tied with Saran Yu. Because Saran Yu gets 20 points for today's win, finished 6th yesterday, and I think 6th is worth 6 points. So they'd both be on 68.5 points going into the final weekend if there's no issues with today's results, for example.
Yeah, we'll just have to wait. Just going to have to wait all the way through until Bang Sen later on in the year to find out. And your race winner, Saran Yu, sitting in a very, very strong position in terms of championship standings is the big thing for him. And strong championship thus far throughout the year. Has had himself second place in the half points race at Bang Sen and the second race of the weekend. So comes very, very strong in the second race of the weekend for Saranyu, but he's been on the podium, I believe, about half the time, probably a little bit greater than half the time. 4 out of 6 races, it looks like, after yesterday's result of a P6. So third place in round race 1, second place race 2, second place at Bang Sen in race number 4, and a race win here in race number 6 of the season. Sets himself up well for a title crack at the end of the year. But for now, going to be time to take a look at our race 6 highlights for your Super Pickup D2. And the grid walk, always fun to get down and amongst the drivers. It's part of what makes this series so unique, is the fan engagement. If you're in the area, get down to the track and have a little bit of fun. Then it became all about business time and who could survive lap 1, who could make sure they looked after their truck, and when would the retirements start. And already for the 52 truck, issues with just getting that one away. Super Monko would drive through the field with serious aggression throughout the duration of this race. Unfortunately, the duration of his race wasn't to see the checkered flag. But battles up and down the field, 26 machine would be making a whole host of spots as he made his way through the field. Super Monko looked supreme. The problem being, we all started asking the questions, was it too hard too soon? And the answer would follow just a few laps later. From there, Saranyu would inherit control of the race and would never look like anyone else would be touching him. Settled the pace back down on at the tail end just to preserve the car, preserve the tyres, preserve everything to make the flag. The number 9 of Krok Pong would make a few moves throughout the race, move his way up. But there would be dramas up and down the field as more than half the field made their way through pit lane at some point or retired from the race. The final lap battles were few and far between, but it was a 42 truck ailing late on in the piece, lost I think about 10 seconds on the final lap of the race, final couple laps of the race. This was Ruster giving way to race leaders, and this was not a battle on track between these cars. 12 truck getting out of the way. And finally, the 18 would come home to finish in second place. Final lap, one more lap left to run, and that's where the pace really started to back down for Saranyu, looking after the truck. The 18 would go in pursuit, but would be a distant 14 seconds behind and would be happy to just score points from both races across the weekend. 54 out of the final corner, and a wave to the fans as he became a race winner for the first time in 2024. And that would be all that there was from Super Pickup C-Class drivers. Ladies and gentlemen, 2 more races to round out the weekend. It's going to be the action from the A and B class drivers. Yesterday was shortened race as they ran out of time to get the racing action in. Will they manage to go the entire duration? You'll have to be back on the other side of this as we go racing for your Thailand Super Pickup D1 category. Hello and welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Two more races to round us out for the Thailand Super Series weekend from Buriram once more. The Chang International Circuit plays host to this, the second round. So the second last round of the championship. And the 24 machine is going to be sitting on pole for this one. Nantawat Chenman has managed to take it away from Super Chai, who will be starting off alongside of him as Goody walks up and down the field to talk to our entrance into this one. Yesterday, finished out of 5th position for the Nantawat. And from this race yesterday, by the way, there was 6 15-second penalties handed out by the stewards post-race, as well as a disqualification for the number 23 of Chinawat as well. So a lot of activity to keep the stewards busy across the weekend here, Dan.
Yes, that's putting it very mildly indeed when it comes to describing the action here for this one. It's always good to be back here on the call. But yeah, to think we're already just 2 races left, and they're 2 sprint races of sorts. All in all, this might end up being going by pretty short, pretty sharp, pretty fast here to wrap up the weekend. But I mean, yeah. Also noting that the attrition rate was almost, in fact, when you factor in the disqualification for Chinawat, alongside all the drivers that did not finish, it was exactly the same attrition rate as what we saw with Super Pickup Division 2. 1 in every 3 trucks did not finish yesterday's race. So we'll have to wait and see if that kind of a trend continues. To put it in perspective, the trucks that didn't finish, 46 of Nutapon, only got through 7 laps and then retired. Same for Akiliak in the 16. Pirawat in the 39, same there as well. Jack Lemvard, 7 laps complete and retired as well in the 41 Ford Ranger. 2 laps complete only for Simon Mapatke in the 99. Unfortunately, he pulled out after that. And then Kemaruch in the 99. Interesting as noted this. Yes, also only made it 2 laps before his truck had to retire. And for Danawat in the 45, only 1 lap complete. Even saying so as well, 3 trucks, by the looks of things, didn't even get a single lap classified on the results chart. So rough for them, to say the least.
Incredibly difficult also, considering that it was a shortened race yesterday as well. And there was dramas as well. In the final laps for the number 7 of Super Chai, he had issues with, it looked like smoke coming from a brake duct, I think the left front wheel. He was having some sort of drama with that corner of the car, and come around just as the smoke sort of started to get worse and picked up the final lap board. So that's sort of enough encouragement, enough there left on the table to still go away and pick up 4th place in the outright results, and 3rd overall for your A-class drivers as well. Standout of the B-class drivers yesterday was Anawat in the 95 entry, picked up an overall podium and first in class. The 2nd place of the B-class drivers was all the way back in 6th, so he did a phenomenal job. It was effectively 15 seconds ahead of 2nd place in class. Alon Korn did a really, really good job of keeping the pressure on Ekaset in the dying stages. They would finish about 2.5 tenths of a second apart for 2nd place in class, 6th and 7th on the road. And then it was the field spread sort of got a fair bit larger towards the back end of the top 10 and into the mid-teens as well. And like we said, penalties that were coming through yesterday. Don't forget there's issues with black smoke. Jack Lemvard had an issue. There was so many trucks with issues that triggered that safety car yesterday, and they were just left with no option but to trigger the safety car. The note from the stewards that come out of all that yesterday as well is that safety cars will be seeing time certain races because they just ran out of effective catch-up time during everything yesterday. and there was no opportunity to keep things moving. What with the issues with qualifying for the TCR series. 5 minutes now on the gridding. Anyone you've got your eyes on here today there, Dan?
Oh, I mean, I think the biggest thing is really going to be a game of just needing to wait and see how drivers attack the start of this race, because that really seems to suggest a lot as to, well, who should you look for? Arguably, not the drivers who push hard at the start, because they're the ones that are at risk of overdriving it and ending up in a situation where they're going to be in a lot of strife. So honestly, it kind of feels like a real mixed bag there as to what to expect, and I feel like there's drivers who we think can do better, but haven't seen the best of them in certain respects. So look, Thatcher race winner starting in 5th for Tenapon. As long as he's sensible at the start of the race, I would get the feeling you watch for someone like him to make his way up a couple of spots as the race goes on, and be in contention once again towards the end of this one. But there are plenty of competitive drivers in this series, so yeah. And don't forget, actually looking at this here, official classification from yesterday's race was 1/1000th of a second across the line, apparently.
There was timing issues which prevented
Yeah,
that from being lined up correctly.
Yeah, that's probably a good point, actually. Before I say that, yes, officially classified as a difference of 1/1000th of a second, but that might not be quite right there too. Anyways, honestly, I don't think I can have a person to recommend for this one, because it could go all over the shop.
I mean, Sandy Stuvik qualified well yesterday. The car ran well, particularly towards the back half of the race. Looked after the tyre quite well. The problem was for Sandy was getting the early race pace out of it. I wonder whether or not for that car they turned it up for qualifying and gave Sandy a little bit more to work with. Robotham qualified a lot better than he did for yesterday's race as well. So he sits 13th, but they've been struggling, I think, for the forwards for a lot of that early on pace. But they're consistent if they can just find their way through. Chase Chakras Parks as well. Remember, he was towards the tail end of things. He had a disastrous day yesterday. Didn't finish either of the races, either Super Eco or Super Pickup D1. So he'll be looking for a strong finish here today. Just put some points on the board. And Jack Lemvard's been consistent last year. Was really, really strong and showing a lot of ability and speed, and it was just not able to build on that at all. Unfortunately, this season he's had a lot of dramas. I remember there was a big accident for him last year at Bang Sand. Do you remember the cars mounting each other on the exit of turn 2 as they started their run up to Monkey Hill? So for Jack Lemvard, whilst the speed has been there, just the ability to put the race finishes in the book is absolutely not. He's significantly struggled. So you'll go through periods of that. I think the big one for Jalen Robotham is he's just happy to be out there and turning laps, because in terms of his luck and the Thailand Super Series, is it's been show up to a weekend, turn 2 or 3 laps, car dramas, and go home again.
Yeah, the amount of times we've unfortunately seen Jalen not take to race starts, let alone make race finishes, been pretty rough of recent. So he'll definitely be hoping for some better racing fortunes, and in that respect, so will we on his behalf. As it's 1 minute until the drivers roll away for the sighting lap. It will be a standing start here in Super Pickup, as you can see. Pole sitter to the right of screen on the preferred racing line in grid box number 1 as well. And that there, none to what is the truck up close. As you can see, this 33 truck field. Well, that looked like it might have been an even number of trucks potentially, stretching all the way back to the last corner, barely staying on the start-finish straight. Actually, no, I take that back. The last truck is in the left lane. Well, from that angle, it's the right lane. Honestly, not sure which is the right. Should I be talking from our perspective, or should I be talking from the track perspective? Either way, it's time for the warm-up lap, formation lap, whatever you want to call it. and see how the drivers go about making sure they are ready to race.
Formation lap now, and they'll pull away. We'll get some information on the tyres come up as well. Don't forget the iconic circuit that plays host to 3 rounds a year for the Thailand Super Series categories. For racing in TSS has been the Chang International Circuit. It's been quick, it's been consistent, the racing action's been good, there's the abilities to overtake up and down the field, and that's what creates good racing. That braking zone down at turn 3 is so tricky, so technical. When you have a look at that corner, particularly from this drone shot, really tells the story of, you know, it's down in there, it's an open entry, and then it sort of closes and narrows on the exit, so the track actually widens up on the run down to turn 3. Sector 1, Sector 2, and Sector 3 make up the 12 corners and 4.5 kilometers that make up Chang International Circuit. And again, another look at the Ventus RS4, proudly supplied by Hankook Driving Emotion, the official tyres of the Thailand Super Series. The Ventus RS4 semi-slick, giving us the racing tyre for both the Super Eco and the Super Pickup, both in 15 and 16, I believe, and 17-inch varieties. Your grid, Nanthawatt from Superchai, front row, Anawatt from Natnach on row number 2. Row number 3 is going to be Thanaphon from Ekasit, Alongkorn, and Tanawatt are going to make up row number 4. The last 2 cars inside of your top 10 in 9th and 10th are going to be Sandy Stuvik in the 3 and Suwat in the 59. Jadaron in the 91 and Supercorn in the 4 are 11th and 12th on the grid. 13th and 14th, I can tell you, will be Jalen Robotham and Pytoon. Andrew Cronin and Chase Chakras Parks will make up 15th and 16th on the grid. Waris and Songsak will make up 17th and 18th. Row number 9. Row number 10 will be Chaipon and Chenon. Row number 11 will be Chalumpon and Nuthapon. Akialuk and Firawat will make up row number 12. Jack Lemvard and Simon Mapaki will make up row number 13 out of 25th and 26th. Kemarich and Danawat 27th and 28th. 29th will be Notherwat. 30th will be Akasit, and the final 3 drivers, Chayapon out of 31st, Chinawat and Surachai off of the final spot on the grid are the 33 starters, including that iconic champ car in the middle of the field as well.
It really is a unique looking truck, the Toyota Hilux Champ there, yeah, among all of these other cars, and it just doesn't fit proportionally to the rest of them. Like, I have to say that the Ford Rangers from both Aurora Ford Thailand Racing and Ford CRE Lenatech Supervoot Racing, those things look pretty mean because they run those massive spotty skirts and kits, so we don't actually see much of the tires, whereas you have other drivers here in the plethora of Isuzus in particular, where you actually do see the front tires below the skirts. It's quite a unique look. Then the Champ is just this little box, yet it's still got the rear lopped out to have a tray.
And one of the trucks is already taking back over to the pit lane, so we will lose one of our starters, which means we'll be down to 32, provided there's no other issues from anyone else in the field. We did actually have all 33 trucks take to the grid. There'll be a long form up here too when you're trying to line up 33 cars. Always thought Formula One had a long form up, but 33 cars certainly an extra 13 over 20.
Yeah, let's see if we can spot the gap in the order as you said. So far, front 5, 6, 7 rows are all in position. Make that 8. No, I'd say top 10, 11, 12. Maybe they're on row 13. We're missing a gap in front of the 99, which would suggest it's Jack Lemvard in the 41 for Aurora Ford Thailand Racing. It did look like a blue truck pulling into the pit lane. As everyone else, they're satisfied with the positions. Green flag at the back of the field. Here's Scott. Your final race of Thailand Super Pickup Division 1 this time takes the 5 red lights. They're out and we go racing down towards turn number 1. And, well, we can say goodbye to the back half of the field. Once again, the iconic, in a sense, cloud of black smoke will dominate the field. As massive lock up there on the inside of about row 3 or 4. Spinner on the outside of turn 1.
Oh, no.
Here we go.
No.
This is right on the racing line. This is going to be interesting.
Oh, they all navigated. They all navigated. No way. Oh, I thought for sure we were at risk of a huge incident right there. But everyone's managed to get out the other side. And that's the big part about this race start. The 24 of Nanthawat did get the better jump. And then I think it's Super Chai who is the next best.
Super Chai third, I think it is.
Run down through. No, Super Chai, has now slotted his way back into third. So it'll be the 15 truck of Thanaphon, who did get himself a reasonable getaway, but the race start under investigation, so it could be a prospect of a jump start. Down through goes the 15 of Thanaphon. It will take the early lead as they get down through turn 4 for the first time of 12 racing laps, unless there's an issue with safety cars. And with 33 combatants, or 32 combatants out on the track, anything could theoretically happen.
Yep, it's only lap 1, and Super Chai is going to throw that truck off the road on the exit of turn 7. He's not the only one to do so, though. So, no, he's going to do it again at turn 8. Well, that's going to get himself at least a warning, if not potentially already straight to the black and white flags from race control for a double. Well, yeah, doubling up when it comes to exceeding track. Someone on the outside of turn 9 there. Didn't quite catch who. Really running it a little bit fast and loose as well. But at the very front of the field, it looks like it's going to be Thanaphon starting to pull a couple of truck lengths on your pole sitter in the form there of Nanthawat. But he'll hold down second for now, as third place is also going to go the way of Tanawat in the 22 before Super Chai has to settle in for fourth place here.
Yep, so they'll all continue to try and squabble on the run down to turn number 1 and have a look at the car that's starting to shape up in the background. It's the 93 Natnich who's managed to at least stay relative with these guys. And once again, Super Chai showing complete disregard for track limits at this stage. Goes out and over the blue space at the end of turn 1. Now he's going to be forced to have a look to the outside as they run down to turn number 3. The 22 machine sliding down the inside. Tanawat trying to get underneath the 24. Of Nanthawat at this point in time. Timing will show him a lot further down. A little bit of argy-bargy as they turn off at turn 3, and now comes through the 93. Here comes Natnach, who will get the drive, looking for the switchback, and indeed they will all manage to get their way past the 24 machine, and Natnach grabs 2 for the price of 1.
Yep, arriving on the scene at just the right time, really, to be able to watch the guys in front go fully out to the edge of the circuit. There's a big lock up there from the 24. Going into the corner, but on the front straightaway, unfortunately, we've lost the 36 truck of Chenon. Jana from the Class B division was the last running Class B truck according to timing and scoring at this stage. So he will definitely won't be taking part at this stage anytime soon, it seems. As your Class B race leader at this stage sits there. That would be 6th on the road. Because don't forget, of course, we have 15 of Thanaphon leading, and well, the 24 of Nanthawat in amongst all this. It's a Longcorn there in the 85 who leads that class, but he's going to go after some more positions outright up the inside of Nanthawat here to the final turn, and it's not contested here on lap 2, so P4 is his for the moment.
Yeah, makes you think the 24 might just be trying to look after and conserve that truck just a little bit. So in the meantime, the 85 of Aloncorn swings his way through and will take the lead of your B-class drivers as well at this early stage. But remember, 12 laps a long duration for the Super Pickup categories, and anything can happen as we keep an eye on the champ car back in the middle of the, well, that can only be described as a hornet's nest. And on the run down through turn number 1 yet again, it's Songsak who sits right in the middle of the pack, and everyone's just trying to pick their way through as best they possibly can right now. The run down to turn number 3 yet again, 2 and 3 wide, as everyone tries to sort themselves out and look for an opening to go for a move. And indeed there will be an opening for a move the long way round. Tries to pull the truck up as they get to the apex of turn 3. 6 trucks, throw a blanket over them as they're all squabbling for a little bit of racing room. And I think that might have been the 23 machine I did just see squabbling for positions as part of that pack. Might have been the 13 of Chalampon as they run down to turn number 4. 23 machine it was. Chinawat will be the driver behind the wheel of that one, making up some positions. And again, still quite packed up.
Oh, to the inside there. Further on, just in behind the Toyota Hilux champ here. As didn't quite catch the number, but one of our Class A drivers there going for it. And there's another plume of smoke here through turns 6 and 7. That's either tyre or engine. And it's engine of some kind for the 23 truck, I think. They're unfortunately expiring. That's Chinawat there, who backs off on the apex of turn 8 to try and get out of the way of everyone there. Messages from race control. The very first one for the race, apart from race start and the turn 1 incident under investigation, is the fact that you need to respect the track limits once again, guys. Unfortunately, that's a whole bunch of steam now coming out the top of the bonnet of that number 23. So that's going to be a rough one for him. But in addition to the you must respect track limits message, it also has a reminder again about black smoke and the responsibility of how to manage. You need to manage that to avoid a penalty. In saying that, car 16, or truck 16, Akealak has picked up the first black smoke penalty of the race in his Mitsubishi Ralliart. Oh, and one that's just come through, and I can tell we can talk to this one here. Big news for the leader of Class B. He won't be the leader of Class B for much longer because Aloncorn is the second driver to get a black smoke flag from the race control team there. So that will see him have to make a trip down the pits.
Indeed, confirmation on the timing screen as it comes through. 3 wide at the moment, but space left if there was a need to go 4 wide down at turn 3. The long way around for the 45 entry as he tries to make space for everyone. Danawat all the way back down. He started the lap in 20th spot, was looking to try and pick up some spots. The 13 machine just did it ahead of him at the moment, so Chalornpon's managed to make his way through. That's Sandy Stuvik, who's having a phenomenal race at this point in time, down to 8 spots, so picked up 3 spots since starting, and that's another truck with an issue, and that looks like that's inside the top 10. Well,
yeah, Sandy Stuvik 8th place at the start of the lap. Just trying to see if we can get a read on who that is they're passing by. No, not quite. Anyone with a slow sector towards the front of the field. Also can't get a read on seeing anyone noticeably off pace. So unfortunately we have to wait to see that truck down pit lane or a wide shot where we can focus on the truck to get it. As you just saw there on screen, the number 44 truck, the next driver to receive a black smoke flag. That there is, if I can find them on timing, Simon Mapake was apparently classified 7th in Class B, 15th outright last time around. Unfortunately, he'll be the next driver to also have to head down the pit lane. There's also a handful of drivers now. I'm seeing 4 have warnings for exceeding track limits. Surprise, surprise.
Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and say Supercharger was among those because of the amount of indiscretions he'd used thus far throughout the race. Stuvik doing a phenomenal job now, up to 5th spot. So this is the best Sandy Stuvik's actually looked in a good while. And I think it might have been Tanawat was the 22 entry that we were seeing off the pace on that most recent lap. Fell a fair way back. And now Stuvik's starting to get hunted down by Suwat. And we'll try and make some time up. The race lead at the moment, 7 seconds for Thanafon as he's really managed to make it his own best lap time, 53.679. Again, we just wonder if he's not gone too hard too soon and hurt the tyre, hurt the engine. Nat Nutch sits in 2nd place also quite comfortably. 3.5 seconds the lead for him. Suvachai is starting to go with a long corn, but remember a long corn will have to do a transit down through the pit lane to serve the black smoke penalty, but that's what they look like from 2nd back to 5th on the road, 2nd back to 6th on the road. Inside that shot is Suwat, also inside of the picture. But I think there's a huge battle. Oh my word. Pushing on still is a long corn.
Yep.
Even with that penalty to come.
Yep, definitely don't be afraid to press on and maybe try and maximise your position. As for a second there, Sandy Stuvik pulls out from behind Superchai into the final corner. Oh, has that just got into his head? I think it has. Yep, Superchai bowls a big old wide there in the number 7. And, yep, for Sandy, that's the easiest P4 he's taken, I think, in some time there. And yeah, it will be P3 in due course, but Aloncorn is still yet to Was Longcourt has finally come to the pit, so indeed, it is now P3. Good call there, indeed.
Yeah, now Super Try trying to get his truck wound up, see if he can find some drive. And go the long way around the big old wall that is the front end of Sandy Stuvik's Ford Ranger. For Ford Thailand Racing. Do wonder sometimes if it's generating extra downforce, if it's just generating extra drag. In the meantime, these guys all going at each other in behind as they run out of turn number 3 as well. And this will be Supercorn, probably with Shadowrun. I think potentially Andrew Cronin is a part of this battle pack as well. Yeah, it will be. Sorry, my apologies. It'll be Shadowrun, Supercorn, and Nekasit with the 3 drivers in this little battle pack.
Yep. There's a moment there just to check out some of our spectators and guests at the circuit here today. As, approaching half race distance. There's another drive there. That truck that we're not quite focusing on there in behind. Just off for a second there, the front right corner producing a bit of white smoke instead of the black smoke you see from the exhaust pipes. As Sandy Stuvik, it might be less than half race distance complete, but he's clearly not afraid to get a bit of sideways action on in the number 3. Although in saying that, being a bit loose like that appears to have slowed him down a little bit on the run to the final couple of corners. Also note another black smoke flag has come out from race control, this time for the 91 truck of Jataron, who was running 3rd in the Class B trucks and Supercharge. Good run out of the final turn in comparison to Sandy Stuvik. He will retake that 3rd place by the time they get to turn 1.
Yes, this has become a battle for the bottom step of the podium as it currently stands. And still there and still in contention as well. Suwat, don't count him out yet as well. Could he be the B-class driver that manages to find a way to crawl onto the podium? And he's got the straight line speed, it looks like, at the moment as they run down to turn number 3, get on the anchors and try and tip the truck in. And manages to hang on to it for now with Sandy Stuvik, but looking for drive out the other side. Suwat looks like he might have found good traction off of turn number 3, and indeed he's going to pull alongside. Now pull completely and utterly ahead, so he moves into 4th spot. Stuvik back down to 5th, and Superchai now takes over and takes control of that 3rd position as well. Stuvik switch back to the outside, looking for the open lane, will pinch a brake. These trucks big and heavy, you pinch a brake, you're going to know about it.
Yeah, you are indeed. As up through turns 6 and 7 they'll go. Stuvik trying to hang in there, it seems, but we might be able to challenge up here in return, but around the outside of Suwat, he's going to be demanded to be left space and effectively take it around the outside in the process. Although, you see there for a moment, not able to finish the move, it seems, before we check in again with your race leader in Tanapon, who's still one of the fastest drivers out on track. Last lap was a 157.7. That one there, sorry, he's just across the line, was a 157.7. So, still looking solid compared to the drivers around him, such as Nutluch, who's here in 2nd. Still lapping in the 1 minute 58s, 58.5 for him, to be precise, as battle still on for 3rd place. Sandy Stuvik can have to settle in for 5th for now, it seems.
Yeah, an interesting fact to sort of discuss and note as a part of this. Thanafon ran his best lap time on lap number 2 was a 1:53.679. He's now just done a 57.748, so fall off 4 seconds. I'm seeing about the same for Natnach. Best lap time for Supercharge. He's actually looked after the tyres, hasn't pushed mega hard, 57.1, so he's only fallen off 1 second in terms of his overall lap time, and a little bit further down they just don't have the peak pace, but able to look after the tyres quite well as this battle pack. As Superchai gets not a great exit now off of turn 3, and that's going to present an opportunity for Suwat to get his truck wound up and have a go. We'll go the long way round, so does get the job done on the entry down to turn number 4. And we'll be looking to pull it up nice and accurately down at turn 5, but it's starting to look like Superchai might have used up the best part of the rubber underneath him at this point in time. Stuvik now starting to fight back and look to be a threat to steal 4th place away. With this is for 3rd place in class between these two. This is A-class drivers again. Super Shy out of control. Little bit of activity in the rear end of that car. Now he'll be on the outside. Stuvik slices down the inside, gets the job done. Entry to turn number 8. And should hold that one on the run down through turn 9 as well.
Can he park it? Well, he can do a little bit better. He'll actually drive out without needing to park it all that much. There, as he makes the run towards turns 10 and 11 there on your screen.
Well, Suat, now what does he do? Now that Super Chai is not immediately behind him, can he run? Can he make a little bit of time? Or is Sandy Stuvik going to start coming back at him? And what are the lap times going to be as these guys get back to the start-finish line to complete one more lap? So 4 laps left to run. We're 8 laps in the book for the final of the Thailand Super Series categories of the weekend. Reminder, TCR Asia to come. After this one, warnings for track limits now starting to come through for a bunch more cars. So Thenafon leads the way by 8 seconds. Ran a 58.2. Second place, though, Nat starting to find some time. 56.7 for him. So he's starting to find 1.5 seconds out of our race leader. Ran a respectable time. Suat, 57.7. 58.1 now for Sandy Stuvik. And Super Chai, 59.2. So he has definitely used the best part of that run.
Yeah, no surprises there with the way we saw him sliding the rear end around, trying to get the power down in several situations there. There's a bit of bodywork almost coming completely off the underside of that truck there we were looking at, which I think was maybe number 2 of Ekasit. Either way, Sandy Stuvik versus Super Chai into turn 4. And Sandy holding the inside there, able to then completely cover off on the run turn 5 for now. But it's just going to allow a driver like Suwat there in front of him, who they do race for overall points, even though they are Class A and Class B drivers independently scored as well. So if they want to get the most possible points for the overall championship, they need to focus on getting up there and racing with him as well, not just racing each other for those class-only points. As there's a look at some of our supporters of Ford Thailand. I believe it might be a mix of both Aurora Ford Thailand as well as Ford CRE supporters. Pardon me if I've got that wrong there, as they have been reminded in the past, 2 very much separate teams who, whilst both have strong Ford Thailand support, very much strong competitors against each other in the racing scene here.
Yep, Coolest Racing Engineering is the CRE-backed cars. And
here's your race leader.
Continuing to just look really, really nice and comfortable. This will probably be where the range on the onboard shot starts to cut out as well. We'll run into turn 3. Margin now down to 7 seconds. So again, 57.199 for Natnach is starting to take some time out. 1.6 seconds again on that lap, but that's okay. The margin in hand for Thenafon is significantly more than that. So provided he doesn't just all of a sudden hit the cliff and fall off, he'll have in the realm of about another 2 seconds up his sleeve at the end of the race, provided he can maintain this pace. Is Natnach able to maintain that pace as well? 57.196 recovery again from Suwat, so he's finding time. Margin between those next 3 cars just over a second now in terms of their race pace. Biggest battle on track, we actually have to look all the way down to Songsak at the moment, who's starting to run down Paitoon, whose truck looks like it's starting to fall off just a little bit. And there was a drive-through penalty for the 5 truck of Natawut at the moment. He's been serving, so he's on the way out as well. Supercorn also had to come through the pit lane. And by the way, Aloncorn's recovery effort back to P6, reasonable effort after serving a drive-through penalty.
I mean, yeah, that's quite impressive indeed, given he's probably only lost about 7 to 18 seconds. As that there is Nuknuch, and as you can see here, got a bit of damage to the underside of his front splitter, so flapping away there just near the left front tyre along the straights. Thankfully, he doesn't appear to be affecting him all too much. Let's see here what the lap time difference is like as the race leader's through. Does 1:58.5. It's a 1:58.1, so only 4/10 pull back on that particular lap, as focusing in again on Suat, who's got Sandy Stuvik for company now. And the two fastest drivers in the top 5 doing 57s. And Stuvik the fastest, full stop, at a 57.6. So about a second faster, almost a second faster than your race leader, but 13 seconds off the lead. That's going to be too little too late at that kind of rate.
I'll have a look at Longcorn as well, as he's just come through to register his time, 57.155. So he's the fastest that we've seen. And somehow Sapon Mapaki has really looked after those tyres. Just ran his fastest lap of the race at the end of lap 10. 1.5 laps left for race leaders at this point in time as they run out of turn number 3, and that's the 41 truck of Jack Lemvard, which has managed to return back to the racing surface, trying to turn some laps. I believe, down in 25th spot as it currently stands, but he pulled off to the side very, very quickly after getting off of turn 3. I'll not be surprised if he's had to pull to the side as well. 15, Nat Natch runs down through the back half of the circuit now. That'll be run down at turn number 8. This will be turn number 9. It will climb up through the hill of 9, 10, 11, get to the final corner at 12 and see the one more lap board. And the sector times, whilst they're not blistering quick, they're also not terrible either. He's still managing that truck, managing that margin, and doing more than enough to hang on to what is a race lead that he can manage home from here. Out of the final corner, gets the final lap board. Will cross the line to set himself 58.223. We wait now for the 6 seconds or so to see Nat Nutch come out of the final corner with the splitter still flapping. Final lap board for him, 58.051, margin 6.3 seconds. So comfortable for Thanafont. Managed that car to the end of the race. And Suwat is having Sandy Stuvik close just a fraction on him in the dying stages of this race.
Yeah, top 4 though, all doing 1 minute 58. Super Chai a 2 minute 0.9. A long corn now actually picked up the tempo of 56.8. Unfortunately, he's still in a bit of no man's land at 6 seconds behind Super Chai, so it's going to be a P6, I would presume, at this stage for the second driver in Class B here today. But approaching half of this lap complete for Tanapon, and looking very good so far to tick this off and make it a domination of the weekend. 2 race wins from 2 starts here for this one at the Chung International Circuit, and it's still looking completely orderly and under control here through the end of Sector 2. Sector 3 now underway here as he heads up towards turns 8 and 9.
Now he'll tip it in. There'll be 4 more cars, corners left to go. The 14 truck on the final lap of the race, unfortunately, he's not going to make the checkered flag. That will be Chayapon. He was down in 21st spot or so at this juncture, and that one's unfortunately expired on him. Thanafon will be on the run down to the final corner now, and we'll be moments away from taking that checkered flag. That car in the final sector for Thanafon. Run down to the final corner. He'll stand on the brakes. He'll tip it in, and he will celebrate 2 wins from 2 races at the second Bang Sen race of the year. Slides the tyres out of the final corner. Celebrates race win number 2. And 2 wins for Thanafon. He'll be happy with that one. Nat Nutch gets home with a bank of points in P2. 3rd overall, Suwat, but Sandy Stuvik recovers for P3 in the A-class drivers category. Will be important to recover championship standings for him. Super Chai, again, struggling late on in the piece. Final lap time for Super Chai, 2:02.4. And Alon Korn took 5 seconds out of him on the final lap of the race as he set the fastest lap of all the drivers in that final lap of the race, 57.433. So he drove back through the field, and you just wonder for Alon Korn. Black smoke penalty has effectively cost him in the realm of 20 seconds, is potentially P2 from that race.
Definitely could have been a podium one, without a doubt, there today, as you can still hear lots of tyres complaining at various points around the circuit, it seems. Unfortunately, we don't have a read on exactly who or where or how many tyres struggling there. But for Tanafon, that was a comfortable and controlled win from start. Well, once he got to the lead, comfortable, controlled lead there. So outright win, and of course, that's also a class win in pickup Class A. As I said, swap out Suwat for Sandy Stuvik when it comes to the Class A, the overall was Class A podium. Suwat will be joined by Alongkorn and Anna Watt for his class podium there. So very nice job from those 6 drivers who make up the podiums across the 2 classes there. And with that, it's just a matter of confirming the results here, Scott. And then there's just one final race left after all this.
And probably one of the more exciting ones as well. TCR Asia is going to be coming our way in just a few moments. But for Thanafon, another race win, 2 from 2 across the weekend. Very, very happy man he will be. And Goody will get to chat to him in just a few moments. In terms of the drivers up and down the field, though, Natnach will be very, very happy with that one. Suwat, Class B honours as well. Goody will get to chat to him in just a few moments. Sandy Stuvik will be very happy. They have had troubles with that truck as well over the course of the last couple of seasons. So to see that truck not only hold together consistently, but also allow him to challenge for potential on-track podiums as well will be a huge jump forward for the Aurora Ford Thailand Racing outfit. And keep an eye on them at the final round of the season as well. That could be a big old win, particularly if they can find something out of that truck and apply it across the entire stable that's available to them. And as they all start to feed back into the pit lane, a little bit of a celebration is going to ensue, I think, as all the drivers will get themselves out of the truck, get comfortable, and have a chat to pit reporter Goody. Yeah, Dan, reasonable race in terms of things.
Oh, without a doubt. I think attrition there looked a little better than what we did see in Super Pickup Division 2. Although in saying that, we had that rather spectacular demise of the number 14 truck there right towards the end of the race for Chiapon. Unfortunately, that Mitsubishi Triton did not want to give him any more than, I guess you could say, the bare minimum in some respects. And yeah. But yeah, good racing from the drivers up and down the field. Obviously, a couple of drivers there pushing the limits when it came to black smoke. Thankfully, no issues with track limit penalties. There were certainly, of course, the warnings, but they didn't end up going any further than that or the black and white flag. But we've been seeing that plenty this weekend. So much so that we do like to make the amusing remark of how the fact that they continue to remind us for race control, supposedly, that those track limits will be enforced if they exceed them.
I mean, it's a little bit difficult, isn't it, though, with big old heavy trucks like these. They do wander all across the road on the semi-slick tyres as well, is a big part of that. You know, it's a lot of pressure being put through those tyres, and you do see it in terms of the tyre fall off at the back end of the race as well. Just having a look at the final standings, and all of a sudden I'm showing that Thanafon might have picked up a post-race penalty. So just trying to keep an eye out for anything registered at the 15 car, but I didn't see anything during the race. There was a 5-second time penalty applied to car 21, which was Jelen Robotham for passing outside of the track limits, which, you know, would be fair enough, and those are pretty slam dunk penalties. It's very straightforward when you see those ones. But yeah, there was an adjustment to the post-race timing, so just curious about that one for Thanafon. I think that might be a glitch on the system. I'm not gonna put any faith in that, but
I would have to agree with that one there, or that decision, Scott. Yeah, by the looks of things. And well, as I was just going to go double check that, it was the 24 truck that had jumped to the top of the results. Well, the timing is now updated to prepare for TCR Asia anyway, so no chance to have a look at that in any closer look for none to what there as to what that could have been. But as Goody wraps up here, the pits will open for drivers in TCR Asia in about 5 minutes' time. Of course, 5 minutes to get out of the pits to the grid. Then about 10 minutes after that, we will take to the formation lap and the start of the race. And it is our final race of the weekend with TCR Asia wrapping up here all of the B-Quik Thailand Super Series coverage. So yeah, while it's the B-Quik Thailand Super Series categories are now over, the fact that, yes, they will certainly be racing, or more racing still here to come to finish off the day.
Yeah, and look at Thanafon, absolutely happy. Got the sunnies out once again, making sure that he's staying true to character and staying true to the entertaining personality he is. Not just a quick old driver around the track, he's also got a sense of style that earns him a few fans and the attention of the Thai fans. Incredibly popular online, Thanafon, by the way, as well. So he'll say a big old thank you. Goody will say thank you for the chat to Thanafon, and then we'll get an opportunity to have a look at the highlights reel of Super Pickup D1 for the weekend, Dan.
Yeah, that we will indeed. Almost as if on cue, here they come to talk to the highlights from the racing action here at Chiang. Final pickup race of the weekend, Division 1. Now 33, well, it was meant to be 33 stars. I think we ended up with 32 stars, as you pointed out, and I believe indeed it would have been Jacqueline Vard, unfortunately, having to peel away from the pit at the start of the formation lap, sighting lap, to come into the pits and have a look at the number 41 truck. So not ideal, given the general enthusiasm we usually see from our drivers here. And, well, thankfully, the rest of them are able to take to the start. You can see plenty busy down the order there with 2-3 wide formations, but at the front of the field, bit of a hairy moment there. We never quite caught the number of which truck spins there at turn 1. As you can see, thankfully, truck's able to go to the inside and swing wide on the outside to avoid running into them, and no issues as a result. But yeah, opening couple laps, pretty crazy there, as everyone was scrapping for every last little bit of position they could get their hands on early on here.
I think the truck that might have actually made contact might have been Super Chai as well, by the way, because it looked like his livery that was sort of just in the middle there, and that might have actually been the reason that there might have been some to do at the end of that race. Aloncorn was quick and he showed it right throughout the piece, but the big issue for him was the drive-through penalty for the Black Smoke. 53 truck trying to get down to the inside, get an overtake done. This battle pack was a delight to watch. Suwat finally got the job done, and then it was Sandy Stuvik's turn to try and get through on Super Chai. Eventually would settle down into 4th place in class, and 3rd place from the A-class drivers. Thanafon, though, good luck touching him, good luck getting anywhere near him. Would drive out to a monstrous lead and would just about be unassailable from there. Nat Nutch would certainly have a crack and certainly try, but not much he really could have done. We kept our eyes on a long corner as he made his progress back through the field, and the final lap for Thanafon. One more lap left to run. Could there be anything done from behind us? Could Sandy Stuvik mount a last-minute charge? The late race retirement of the 14 truck would seal the end of his race number 6 and the 3rd weekend of the championship, but nobody touched the 15 truck of Thanafon. 93 of Nut Nutch was comfortable home in 2nd, and that rounds out the highlights for race number 6 of your Super Pickup D1. On to TCR Asia. They'll be rolling out a pit lane here in just a few moments, then around to your starting grid formation lap. 15 laps will be the duration. Ladies and gents, we'll be back with all the action for the final race of the weekend in just a few moments. Hello and welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the final race of this weekend's coverage from the Thailand Super Series in Chiang International Circuit. Time for the category that has travelled to be here for the first of two weekends at the Chiang International Circuit. It's TCR Asia. And yesterday, we were able to witness Wang Do-yun pick up his first ever race win, albeit a 30-second time penalty handed out to Zheng Zhongdong would change the race result after the end of the race. A false start issue yesterday in the race for Zheng Zhongdong was the reason he received that 30-second post-race penalty. That's allowed Max Hart to pick up a few points back on the championship leader, and at least gives him an option to try and find a potential to score some points back. The series will head to China for the final point scoring round. Not 100% confident whether the Macau round that is scheduled for November of this year will actually be point scoring for the TCR Asia series. And that would certainly land the ball firmly in Zheng Zhongdong's court. Max Hart has managed to win one of the races thus far this year from the Sepang International Circuit. And your third individual race winner unique individual race winner on the season yesterday, Wang Do-yun. Now it'll be an interesting one, though, because there will be some inversions. The second race of the weekend sees you top 6 from qualifying to get inverted. And what that means is the car in the background of that shot was Umar Abdullah. He will be your pole position driver for this one, Dan.
Yeah, he will. And it's an interesting format for qualifying here in TCR Asia. And it was actually the sort of interesting way the qualifying works. It sort of unfortunately caused a bit of a blip there in the way our schedule ran yesterday. But yeah, the fact that we took the top 8 from Q1, which was a 20-minute session, they're allowed to run and have a 10-minute shootout to determine their final starting positions for race 1, and then flip the top 6 from that session for the grid here in race 2. So yeah, yesterday's race, like, on track, it was Zhang Zhendong who ran away with it. Unfortunately, as he said, his 30-second post-race penalty for a false start meant that he still ended up back. I believe it was in 4th place. It was the last of the pro cars in the top 6. Then Jian Nung and Benny Santoso, if I remember correctly, were close by. Actually, rather than saying, if I recall correctly, I can always grab the race results and actually talk to this with some accuracy. Yeah, indeed it was. Wang Do-yun for the race win, 9 seconds ahead of Max Hart, teammate there from Renault M by Z Speed. Then yeah, Umar Abdullah breaking it up there for the Delta Garage Racing team. Zhang Zhendong, his penalty putting him back to 4th place. It was Daipo Fitramadan, the second of the Delta Garage Racing team entries, and your Cup category winner. Because don't forget Benny Santoso, big old spin on lap 1. Self-inflicted, unfortunately, at turn 7, that basically put him out of contention for that Cup class win that we thought he might have been on for. But in saying that, he was only 5 seconds behind by the end of the race, so I wouldn't be ruling him out. Also, a note here, Scott, on that penalty for Zhang Zhendong, it does note here, false start or out of position before start. So, whilst I guess it's not specified, could have gone both ways. Could have been either or there in terms of the reason for that penalty there.
Yeah, that makes a lot more sense, because we looked at that replay yesterday, and I didn't see him creeping. And one of the things I was just about to say was, one of the things that was taught as a young motocross rider was we start behind a gate, right? So we've got a little bit of an advantage. Start a little bit further back, creep towards the gate so that you're moving right when that gate drops, gives you a much better start. It's one of the little things that you can sometimes do. Not an option, though, in terms of car racing. You got to be static right until the moment that those lights go out. But being out of a position does certainly make sense, because you notice, eagle-eyed did pick up that there was potentially an out-of-the-box infringement on that initial start. That would make a lot more sense. Difficulty as well, wasn't until lap 3, lap 4 for a lot of our drivers that they were actually setting their fastest lap times as well. So, it's taking 3-4 laps to bring the tires up to temperature even after the formation lap, the warm-up laps, and getting everything onto the grid. Standing start, cold tires, anything can happen. Anything nearly did happen in turn 1, and there was damage to Max Hart's car as contact was made between himself and Hong Do-yeon on the run through turn number 1. Do-yeon got a supreme start, sent it up the inside. Really good opportunity to put himself into the race lead, potentially win that race. Well, he did win the race in the end of things, but was very, very deep at turn 1, had a lot of problems, propped up Zhang Jindung, and there was very nearly a big accident between the three of them that potentially could have taken your top 3 out of contention all the way back on lap 1. Today's start, well, those 3 drivers are going to be starting out of Max Hart will be 4th, Hwang Do-yeon will be 5th, and Zhang Jindung will be 6th. So there'll be 3 cars ahead of them in the order that they'll have to do some overtaking with. And if there's one thing that sim racing has taught me, and one thing that regular racing has taught me as well, is boy, I love inverted fields. I do love a reverse grid sometimes, Dan.
You have mentioned that once or twice in recent memory when it's come up being like, oh, where's the reverse grid? Well, here it is today. And I guess it is a good chance because it's tested not just how well you can race and to know how much speed you've got relative to other cars, I should say, but also critically how well you can race cars that you've got to get through. And it doesn't mean it means it's more than just comfortably leading from the front and taking it from there. So, as I said, drivers like Zhang Jindong, with the margin, he was able to pull a fairly healthy margin over teammate Hwang Do-yeon, who in turn had a healthy margin over Max Hart. I would think those 3, they should get through without too many issues. But say around Umar Abdullah, Jian Nung, Benny Santoso, those guys all ended up pretty close together at the end of yesterday's race. So let's see. Actually, pardon me, for Umar Abdullah, he was actually a bit ahead of them, but let's see if he can maybe build a bit of a gap, because drivers like Jian Nung, Benny Santoso, maybe they hold up the pro guys behind a little bit. And maybe it just makes things interesting in the back half of this race.
Something else that's worth noting is that Zhang Jindung didn't actually get the best start yesterday either. You know, driver of that caliber, particularly the number of races he's actually won this year, he'll make that mistake once and you won't see it again. Could have been a clutch drama. Sometimes there is. Sometimes there's just something about it. Perhaps it's a little bit over temperature, a little bit further south in Malaysia as well. Higher temperatures, lack of focus, different conditions, new circuit potentially hasn't been to. But generally, a higher quality driver, you'll only see that mistake out of once. And Zhang Jindung certainly strikes me as that kind of driver. He'll need to get a good start today. The problem he's going to have is that, you know, the 2 guys that are probably most competitive are right there, right in front of him, and they're not going to be willing to let him through. So the psychology of that start, it then becomes opportunism. Well, what happens if let's say he gets a second poor start again today, and all of a sudden the driver's at a 7th and 8th on the grid? They start to look aggressive because absolutely you've got to take every opportunity that presents itself. Young Ho-ji, Ananthorn. Ananthorn's got nothing to lose. First entry of the season, drove reasonably yesterday, unfortunately hampered by a few dramas. Got an opportunity here today, send it, see what happens. So, you know, for him, there's a lot less risk in terms of things. So the aggression level for him might just come up a little bit.
Oh, yeah, don't you worry about that. That'll be the interesting thing, I think. Yeah, as you said, when you're starting back in P6 and you didn't have a great start, that's a good point to bring up, I think, because yeah, if as I said, if it happens again, if there's a decent start from Young Hao-ji, who will be on the next row back along with Anatol, who, don't forget, Anatol also is in that pro class as well in the 28, the second Honda Civic TCR car here this weekend. I get the feeling, chance permitting, he'll certainly look to make up some soul visions, although on that potentially dirty side of the track too, so it might be a bit tough to get a clean getaway there if it's a little messy out that side of things. Speaking of which, here we are down towards the back half of the field. Here is the second Honda Civic, the older model Honda FK2, which yes, was noted in some of our broadcast chats yesterday. We don't see that all too often. I do believe we're about a minute away from drivers rolling away, with the start engine command usually coming at the 1 minute sign, and well, we've been on schedule actually quite nicely today with just racing. So Daipa Futrama down there, 9th place start for him, and Lu Qiren will be out at 10th place. He's ready to go and he's looking forward to seeing. He's got the older Hyundai Veloster. Pardon me. It's considered actually an Elantra i30, which is a bit of a interesting mishmash of the names there, at least based on what we're used to down this side of the world. So, last couple of people clear the grid. It's time for the formation lap, I do believe, Scott, for TCR Asia. Indeed, 15 seconds away from rolling off the grid here.
Yeah, and something else that's worthwhile remembering as well for the first time this weekend. Second time this weekend in racing trim, drivers sitting on the left-hand side of those cars. So everybody else has just about been on the right-hand side of the cars, but a switch over to the left-hand side of the cars means they're on the opposite side. They're going to be on the outside of the car compared to where most of the apexes are. A little bit of a change, but there's no drivers competing in multiple categories across the weekend. So just the one category for all the drivers that are a part of this series here as well. And the fans have made it up into the stands to sit down and celebrate their drivers for TCR Asia. Final racing category, 15 laps will be the duration as everyone tries desperately to get some heat into these TCR tyres. They tend to take a while to bring in, and temperature on the warm-up lap, as well as cleanliness of those tyres, always extremely important. TCR Asia Series from the Chang International Circuit here this weekend. Race number 5 and 6 of their Championship 5 run yesterday, won by Huang Doyun. Can Max Hart strike back? Will Zheng Zhengdong recover from that penalty yesterday and go back-to-back with line honours before the penalty was applied? Most importantly, did he learn his lesson from yesterday? He's going to place that car correctly in the grid box. Umar Abdullah gets your reverse grid pole position off alongside of Zhang Nyan in the Z-Speed Motorsport car. Benny Santoso is the leader in terms of your cup standings. Can he pull off a good result alongside of Max Hart, Huang Doyun, and Zheng Zhengdong off of row number 3. Yang Huiji and Ananthorn Teng Nana Chai, Daipo from Matahan, and Lu Kuren, the back end of your 10 TCR competitors here this weekend for the TCR Asia International Series. Dan, I'm going to ask you, I think Max Hart's got an opportunity in this one. What do you think? A Huang Doyun fan or a Zheng Zhengdong? Perhaps you're also a Max Hart fan.
Well, I suppose we're meant to be impartial half the time with sitting up here. You say never, okay? Well, one of the things is that Max Hart and Zheng Zhengdong up until yesterday had all the race wins in the 4 starts this championship has had this year, and then Huang Doyun added his name to the mix yesterday, winning. Although, mind you, of course, it was Zheng Zhengdong first across the line before the penalties put him back in that, was it, pardon me, fourth place, sorry. Yeah, 4th place. It was the top 4 all pro cars, just had to move first down to 4th. So I think that's important to keep in mind here in many respects, that I would think it's between those 3 drivers from the Hyundai MBZ Speed stable, but we do have other drivers here who could potentially throw a spoiler in the works. And I'm just not going to say anything on that just yet, I think.
Okay. Interesting to note. Benny Santosa, we'll see how he does in the cup standings as well. Can he drive on through for another cup win thus far this season? Worthwhile keeping a shout on. What's the positioning like in terms of the grid bays? And driver that sits in 3rd place is a long way back from that
Benny.
Grid bay.
That's
That
Benny.
is indeed Benny Santoso. He's a very, very long way back from that starting box, and we'll have to keep an eye on that. 3 lights are on, 4 lights. Final race start of the weekend. 5 lights are on. They're off. TCR Asia on the run down to turn number 1. Who's got a reasonably good getaway? The car off of pole position. Umar Abdullah didn't get a great getaway. It's going to be Zheng Nan who tries to slice it down the inside, but have a look at the driver on the left-hand side of the road. The 69 entry of Max Hart. Huge send down the inside on the run down to turn number 1. And we'll get an opportunity to have another look at this one. 3 wide on the run down to turn number 1. Does get to the inside, then gets squeezed out the car in the middle. I think that might have been Santoso, but Max Hart's going to try and cut his way through and try and get to the point. Got forced extremely narrow. Keep your eyes for Zheng Zhengdong. He's looking to the inside as well. The 56 machine of Santoso is going to get squeezed 3 wide. Here comes Zheng Nan. He's going to go the long way round. Max Hart's going to dive it down to the inside. Cold tyres. Can he get to the inside of Umar Abdullah? Yes, he can. Max Hart to the point. He'll take your race lead. Have a look at Zheng Zhengdong though. He's going to follow him through. He'll try and get to second. second as they come off of turn 3.
Yeah, here we go now, up the run towards turn 4, but still actually Umar Abdullah going to slot into second place. And it's 3 wide between the Hyundais there of Jian Nung, Benny Sentoso, and I believe it'll be Huang Do-young looking at that one here. As into turns 4 and 5 we will come. Little wide from Max Hart. He's still pushing very hard as in for second place there. Contact between Zhang Zhendong and Umar Abdullah. Umar goes around in the 86. Can he get that car fired up and pointing the right way? As through 6 and 7 they will go. And it's now Hyundai 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 before you get to the first non-Hyundai in the second of the Hondas in Anatorn there in the 28 machine. But, well, that one might just throw a little bit of a wrench. As there's Umar Abdullah, so he has got going again, thankfully, but now a long way behind the field. There's a replay of that one here from the outside of turn 5. That angle there, unfortunately, not as good as the one we used earlier there to have a look at that one. And, well, that's going to take a bit of a piecing together because from the angle we had, Scott, unfortunately we can't go back and look at it right this second. It did look like as though it was a bit of a late dive after Umar Abdullah started turning in for the corner, but at the same time, do you think maybe there's an argument there to be had that he could have seen that coming?
I definitely think he should have seen that coming and potentially opened the steering. And what's the harm in sort of covering that one up from Abdullah? Now he'll go to the back end of the field. I mean, in the pro class, he's there to have a fight, and the stewards will have a look at it certainly. And we'll await with bated breath 2 races, 2 trips potentially to the stewards office for Zhang Zhendong, who's not going to make the easiest of weekend for him as we get 3 wide on the run into turn number 3 yet again. And the rear end of the 97 starts to come out from underneath him in the Cup's class standings at the back end of the field. They'll try and line it back up once again as they all fight over it. Adam Thorne still looking to go the long way around of these guys and pick up a couple spots, but he's been shuffled back just a few places in terms of this one.
Yeah. Oh, no, he's going around. He's around. Anator loses the rear of the 28. Thankfully, it goes backwards and then is pointing the right direction for turn 5. But how's that there also? It's ripped up the window seal, or the windscreen seal, I should say, there on that car. But, man, we saw in race 1 yesterday with Benny Sentoso at turn 7, the car went around at the rear on cold tyres. Lap later for the 28 of Anatorn, unfortunately, similar fate befalls him as he just pushes apparently a bit too hard for what that Honda Civic could do for him right this stage. Thankfully, can recover momentarily, not lose a huge amount of time, but that's going to be a rough one there. It's back to live pitch as we go, and your top 3 Hyundai M by Z Speed. In fact, it's all 4 of the Hyundai M by Z Speed drivers. Because Benny Sentoso leads the way in the Cup category there in that number 56 as he follows his pro class teammates across the line to start lap number 3.
Yeah, interesting one, and just wait because I'm waiting for a message from race control to come across the screen that they're going to have another look at that one. And a little bit on the curb was where the rear end started to come out from underneath Enan Thorne. Either way, how good was the car control? Did you notice, Dan? He just about at all stages kept the wheels spinning on it, just. So it wasn't a hard lock on those brakes. The tyres actually might be okay on that one, and big old pitch of the brake now this time for Zhang Nan, who leads second in the Cup standings at the moment, but that's a lot of weight on that tyre, and that'll be putting a lot of pressure now coming his way as Daipo is going to try and get the elbows out, see if he can do some overtaking.
Well, the funny thing you say weight, Scott. If anything, it was a lack of weight on the right rear as the front end obviously loads up under brakes. It's unloading the inside rear tyres on a lot of these cars in several spots, which means we're seeing a fair bit of locking at the rear end as a result, making some impressive smoke shows, even though it doesn't really compromise their runs into corners. As Daipo Fitromidar looking to get second here in the Cup category, and maybe would then have a chance to go chase after Benny Sentoso, but Benny already 3.5 seconds ahead of Jian Nung in front of him. Another right rear lock from the 21, so that might just be starting to flat spot something a little nasty there if that keeps happening. And you'll feel that every time he comes into a right-hand turn, that's for sure.
Yeah, Max Hart though, starting to find some time. 45.549, 45.279, 45.243. Fastest lap of the race thus far, 44.919 for Zhang Zhendong on lap number 2. But is starting to go through the heat cycle, are the tyres. By this stage yesterday, we'd seen the best of the pace, and it was just starting to ail away from them in the back half of the race. Incident at turn 5, lap number 1, no further action. So Zhang Zhengdong is free to race. There is no penalty hanging over his head, and that will be what he will want to know. Huang Doyuan was quick yesterday, but this time around, Max Hart leads the way, has the better air to the front splitter to generate a little bit more downforce, but we'll be punching the hole for Zhang Zhengdong. And Zhang has managed to close about 1.5 tenths of a second in the first sector, so a little bit of time gain there. Once again, Daipo is going to have another go. It's going to look into the inside, switches back to the outside, covers back once again. We'll switch back to the inside, trying to have a go. This is all backing them up into Lu Karen as well. So, sorry, Yang Hoji. Just in behind. So Daipo's thinking he wants to get hurry on with this one and try and get the job done.
Yep. The problem is that the more finding you do, the easier it is for the driver ahead to pull a margin. Meanwhile, on this current lap, sectors 1 and 2, the timing doesn't look that bad for Max Hart, but in the first 2 seconds. But I think maybe start of sector 3 up through turn 7 and 8 before we cut to him here at turn 9 has had a bit of a shocker, because now Zhang Zhendong has gone from being inside of a second to being all over him, and already covering into turn 12 now is the driver of the number 69. These two drivers are your top 2 in the championship after the opening 5 races of the season, and it is very much advantage of Zhang Zhendong thanks to strong results all year round. Max Hart only has the 1 win to his name, whereas Zhang has 3, so it certainly worked his way so far. So let's see here, how far does the racing between the teammates go, given its personal glory that's on the line. If that's the case, look at that last lap around, Max Hart actually slowest to the top 3, which is not what he wants to be seeing. Even Huang Doyuan there, a little further back in 3rd place, comfortably half a second quicker than your race leader at this current time.
But I think he's recovered nicely. Braking zone and entry down through turn 3 was a lot better that time by for Max Hart. So he's built a little bit more of a margin. Sector 1 time, 25.468 will build 1/10 of a second, and it'll come down through here into turn 6 and halfway through the 6-7 complex. We'll get a sector 2 reading on them now, 38.548, 38.685. So again, finds himself another 1/10 of a second, so builds that margin. Finally, Daipo has managed to get the move done down here for 5th spot, passes Zhang Nan. Now Yang Hoji is going to get an opportunity to try and apply some pressure already up to the rear end now of Zhang Nan for the 2Z Speed Motorsports drivers, sharing the team colours here this weekend. How good is the pace from Ananthorn, though, as he's trying to drive back up to these guys? He is starting to take significant chunks, and Amar Abdullah is 6.5 seconds back from these guys, but he's starting to take some time out. By the way, an update on the car 14 for Huang Doyuan. Black and white flag for track limits, Dan. Pushing the margins.
Yep, he's been given 3 warnings prior. So 1, 2, 3, black and white. I get the feeling that happens again. Gonna see a time penalty the way the number 14 car. Other cars that are on track limit warnings. First warning for Max Hart in the 69. I don't see a second warning for him yet. As speaking of Max Hart, it's on for the race lead with himself and Zhang Zhendong into the 145s, but Zhang continuing to be that little bit faster than his teammate in the race lead. Let's see how much will he defend the inside. The answer is very. He's going to force the 18 around the outside. Nope, by the point it comes an option. Max Hart's able to move over and take the normal line into turn 4 here as they swing through this double left. And, well, first left you swing left, then jump on the anchors for a second left, and then as you try and power out, of course, make it a third left for good measure as you loop back on yourself before you finally start turning right. And then you turn right for a whole bunch of times with the way it all works out here as Zhang is all over the rear gearbox, in fact forcing Max Hart to the middle of the road because he's gotten almost alongside there, at least front to rear, and up through the back half of the lap here. It does bring Huang Doyuan into the equation, so your 3 pro category Hyundai M by Z Speed drivers are on top of each other here. We're barely 1/3 distance into this race, as very wide from Max Hart. That's way off the track, so that's going to be his second warning for limits there. Tries to cover off Zhang Zhendong, and he barely gets there in time, Scott, to protect the inside. But these 3 are leaving nothing on the table, it seems, despite the fact that, and I guess part of that is they've got no competition in the pro category today at this rate.
No, they have run away to the tune of about 8 seconds away from Benny Santoso. At the moment, Max Hart does lead the way. And now it's starting to get interesting. The bobble through turn number 1 does get some drive down there. Zhang Zhengdong's actually managed to get underneath him at turn 1. Gets better drive as they run down the straightaway between turn 2 and turn 3. Can he get across and potentially pull him back with a little bit of side draft? He has managed to do that, but it's going to be the long way round when they get down to the braking zone at turn 3. Huang Do-Young now has a look in very, very deep under brakes. Is Max not quite able to pull the car up? He might lose 2 spots for the 1. Indeed, no, he's managed to get reasonable drive off of the corner. Then bobbles a little bit on the curbs. Huang Do-Young's gone through. So from first back to third, Max Hart had the race lead, had control. Now it's Zhang Zhengdong.
Let's see here. Can anyone put pressure on Zhang here to maybe take the race lead away from him before he gets away like he did in race 1, where he just got back to the race lead and then checked out from here. And let's also note this here. 18 has a warning for track limits. It's only just come through recently, though, on timing. As we said, black and white's already been issued to the number 14, his teammate behind. So he's got less warnings to play with. And the 69 Max Hart has got, I'm seeing 2 warnings actually in the system, plus a black and white, sorry. So if anything, Zhang Zhendong's in prime position. He's got more track limit warnings he can play with, it seems. And he was the faster car in qualifying and yesterday's races, barring his post-race time penalty. So unless Huang Do-Young here has something extra to give without putting himself in trouble with the stewards, I kind of get the feeling that we might see these gaps stretch out. But 8 laps to go as we've basically coming to the halfway mark of this race. Let's see what we do get from our drivers here. As if anything, Max Hart there already starting to back off a lot relative to his teammates.
Yeah, well, I mean, the problem for him, he's definitely trying to scrap everything he possibly can out of that car, stay relevant to the 2 drivers on track just ahead of him. But Zhang Zhengdong's just look cool, calm, collected, under control. The only blemish on his weekend thus far has been that issue with starting outside the grid box yesterday. Other than that, it's been reasonably well handled from where the Chinese driver stands. Huang Do-Young, the South Korean driver, Max Hart, the Irish driver, and an Indonesian driver. So 4 different nationalities inside your top 4. Second of the Indonesian drivers, Daipo from Matahan in 5th spot as well. Cup Series standings, Benny Santoso from Daipo, and that margin's about 8 seconds back to Daipo at this point in time. Daipo actually ran quite a reasonable last lap, but they'll be running out of time before they're able to get that one sorted. Umar Abdullah has now managed to make a couple of overtakes from the rear end of the fields past Luke Karen and Ananthun in the most recent lap, so he's picked up a spot in terms of pro class standings as well. And starting to make some time back once again on Yang Huoji. Clear lap this time by. We'll have to keep an eye on what the lap time looks like for the driver of the 86.
Speaking of the 86, Scott is also on a final warning for exceeding track limits, so gonna have to be careful not to push it too much in the pursuit of these positions, because the only steps left are the black and white, and then potentially time penalties. Beyond and saying that, we've had, let's note this, 83 back in last place at the moment. Lucci Ren is on, he's just there. The back shot is on a black and white. The 97 of Yang Haoji is on a black and white. 69 Max Hart's on a black and white. The 28 of Anatone and the 86 of Umar Abdullah on black and white flags for that. The 14's on a black and white. So in fact, does that possibly mean the only cars that aren't on the black and white already for track limits are your race leader Zhang Zhendong and Benny Santoso in 4th, along with, did I say 82? Or Daipo for Chomadan? Possibly not.
Yeah.
No. So by that reckoning, it's 3 out of 10 cars are safe. But it means, yeah, 70% hit rate for a black and white flag for track limits abuse here. And we're just getting into the second half of the race.
Yep, so they'll have to mind their P's and Q's in the final half of the race. Zhang Zhengdong now starting to look a lot more comfortable since he's got to the lead. Starting to stretch the margin now back to Huang Doyuan. Best lap for Zhang Zhengdong of 44.919. And he'll come to the start-finish line to give us another lap time here. It's going to be a 45.941. So he's starting to show a clean pair of heels. 46.108 for Huang Doyuan. 46.135 for Max Hart as well. So lap times have started to recover from Max once he's sort of drifted back a little bit here. We now wait for Benny Santosa to come back across the start-finish line. He sits a very distant 4th spot, 8.5 seconds back from these guys. It'll be another 8 seconds or so back to Daipo Frutamatahan.
Yeah, speaking of further back in the pack, unfortunately bad news for Umar Abdullah. He has received himself 5-second post-race time penalty for continued track limits abuse. So that will send him a little bit further back down the order. At this stage, he's almost clear of Yang Haoji for being 5 seconds back. In fact, I think it's just cleared Jian Neng there in this split view with your race leaders on the left and Umar Abdullah. Yep, that is now the 21 of Jian Neng behind him in 7 seconds. So if Umar Abdullah can keep pushing here, he'll only lose a spot as things stand right now. Maybe he can keep pushing on hard enough to make it no spots lost, although do that there at turn 4 and 5, you'll probably catch the steward's attention for additional track limits abuses. As in addition to that, car 14 of Huang Doyuan, despite being on a black and white, has been given another final warning as 28 of Anatorn and Lucci Ran in the 83 go at it there through turn 6 and 7. Meantime, Scott, I should probably leave a chit-chat about what's happening in race control, given the racing we've got on track between the drivers, it seems.
Yeah, 83 and the 28 machine still going at it. Lucci Ran trying to see if they can pull away another spot. And Yang Huiji starting to come back to them a little bit as well. So it's going to be a 3-car battle here for 8th spot as it currently stands. And Zhang Nan is still trying to go with Umar Abdullah. Up ahead was the critical part of that at the moment. Zhang Zhengdong sets another 45.0, so still finding ways to improve his times as it currently stands. And he's actually just going to go ahead and set the fastest first sector that he's driven thus far in the race. He's still finding some time there for the Chinese driver who leads the way at the 10 laps completed mark. We're now under 5 laps to go as this battle continues to rage back here between the 83 machine. Lucci Ran finally manages to find a way to get to the inside of Anand Thorne. I wonder if maybe that slide he went on a little bit earlier in the race is starting to hurt those tyres for the driver of the 28.
I get the feeling they might be. Although we'll have to see in the next couple of laps as to whether it's exactly the case or not. As unfortunately drops back to 10th place here. Still could hang with Lucci Ren and Yang Haoji maybe. But it's all a wait and see game, it seems. As a bit wide there from Lu in the 83. That'll catch the attention of the stewards. Oh, he's wide at turn 5. That's a big old mess there. And plenty of dust on the tyres now to add a bit of insult to his injury. Might also get a bit of a slap on the wrist from the stewards for that one there as well. As there you go, top 3 onto the start-finish straight. We are now at 4 laps to go in this one here. These cars aren't crazy faster than everything else we've had this weekend, but it feels like with these guys here in TCR Asia, the races just almost come and go. Ultra rapid here as we keep watching the split view here. So you've got 1, 2, 3 on the left and 8, 9, 10 on the right.
Yeah, so for Max Hart, still trying to set some reasonable lap times. Most recent lap, 46.507, so that one's probably gone and done. And there's going to be more updates. What was the car really that did actually pick up that penalty for track limits breaches? Was the 86, I believe, of Umar Abdullah. Well, there's going to be one more applied, but it'll be to the 83 now of Lucci Ran. We'll be picking up a penalty for track limits breaches on that most recent lap. And gonna keep an eye on this battle as well, because the 97 Yang Hoji starts to lock a few brakes as they run down towards turn number 3. It's not the easiest to pull these cars up at the moment. Interesting battles, at least keeping us glued to the right-hand side of your screen. And we might actually get a little bit more of that on-track battling. Luciren's still trying to find some ways through, and an update confirming that the 5-second time penalty to be added to the post-race time for Luciren sits off the back end of this battle pack as it stands. Needs to keep applying pressure, force the other drivers to keep using up the off-track limits. Because if there's a mistake here, Dan, and there is a penalty applied to some of the other drivers, and confirmation now as well, Umar Abdullah is going to receive another 5-second penalty. So that'll be 10 seconds now to be added to the driver of the 86 post-race time, Dan.
Yep, sure will. And that's obviously not ideal in the slightest for him, because he currently sits as we wait to see these guys come through. Now also having a focus on Benny Santoso, who comfortably controls the Cup category lead. Gap to Jiannung is only 5.6 seconds for Umar Abdullah, so he's barely, and then 4.4 from Jiannung to Yang Hoji. So if he's not careful, he'll lose at minimum 2 spots, could possibly lose more. Now, in saying that, I don't know if these drivers would have gotten that information, that maybe if they just sit together and allow each other to go as fast as they can without fighting, they all potentially gain a spot off the 86 of Umar Abdullah, who is currently, as of the start-finish line, he was up underneath the rear end of Daipo Fitramadan, but my timing is suggesting he is now in front as they're heading up into turns 4 and 5 for them at this stage. Meanwhile, back on the race leader here with Zhang Zhendong, who's coming up to 2 laps to go, and it really has been a case of smooth sailing, even though the gap is only at 3.6 seconds. Being kept honest by Huang Do-Yung this time around, but still putting in pretty fast laps, according to my timing screens here, Scott, relative to his teammates behind.
Yep, still seeing the timing charts are light. Sets himself for 45.099, another 7/10 of a second that he's going to pull out of the race lead. He puts a second on that lap now over Max Hart and his nearest championship rival. So important to continue scoring points for Zhang Zhendong, just in case the worst should happen at any point in time. He wants to put that margin out as far as he possibly can. At this point in time, under 2 laps left to run, under the final 9 kilometers of the racing weekend.
That we are indeed. As it's been a textbook run, it seems, once again here in race 2 for Zhang Zhendong. I mean, we've still got to get the lap and a half that's left here done before you can say anything in particular about it. Car 97, Yang Haoji, who dropped back to last across the start-finish line that last lap, at the timing line at least, has been given his fining warning for track limits. As now look here at Huang Do-Yung. Solid second place on the cars, it seems, for this race here, because Max Hart has dropped a long way back. So clearly something in the way the number 69 has been set up this weekend, or whether it's just extra track knowledge that maybe Zhang and Huang have picked up in other categories that have come here over the years. But of these 3 pro drivers in the Hyundai N by Z Speed Garage, Max Hart definitely has looked to be struggling a little bit more than his teammates. Well, it was 2 laps to go. It is now 1 lap to go for Zhang Zhendong as he rounds the final turn, and the board is out for him at the start-finish line. And same for Huang Do-Yung there. And then eventually Max Hart as well. We'll see that same signage as on that last lap, a 44.7 from your race leader. Fastest lap of the race from him as well to boot. So despite the fact that we've seen some pace drop off from other drivers, apparently that's not always the case here.
I'm wondering whether or not the track temperature might have just come down a few degrees as the afternoon sun starts to bleed off the racing surface. Fuel's burned off for Zhang Jingdong, and he just wanted to finish the race in style. I believe he set himself a 43-second lap time, 1 minute 43-second lap time yesterday in qualifying number 2. Final 3 cars will come across to pick up the last lap board. Anand Thorne has managed to make their way through to the pointy end of this little battle as Yang Hoji's lost a couple spots to both of these guys at this point in time. That 83 machine, though, is going to pick themselves up a 5-second post-race penalty for track limits infringements. As Yang Hoji for the final time on the run down to turn 3 for the Chang International Circuit race weekend. One big old pinch of the rear brakes for the 97 machine. Goes the long way round. Anand Thorne is getting harassed and harangued by the 2 Cup class drivers at this point in time as they run out of turn 3 and up the straight. On the flash of the headlights, getting propped up a little bit at the apex, not necessarily all that happy with Lu Qiren. And finally, Zhang Jingdong to the final corner. What should have been a race win yesterday, starting infringement, becomes a race win on TCR Sunday. Huang Doyun will come across and will make a very, very strong case for a great points weekend. Finishes first and second for his race weekend. Max Hart will be a little bit disappointed at an opportunity to get some points back on Zhang Jingdong. Did take some points away yesterday, but he'll lose more ground again today. And that'll put him at net loss for the weekend, unfortunately. And that might be all she wrote in terms of championship standings. Benny Santoso just about put a stamp on the Cup Series as it currently stands. One hand upon that trophy. Umar Abdullah, after getting turned early in that race, drove back through the field reasonably to finish in 5th. Daipo had a phenomenal race as well, had to do some overtaking, had to get the elbows out. Zhang Nan's going to come home in 7th spot. And then this little battle pack, Lu Qiren is going to cross the line in 8th spot, but we'll get a 5-second time penalty to be added and we'll drop behind the 2 of those drivers. But a fantastic little battle to keep the fans entertained at the end of Yuchang International Circuit racing weekend for Thailand Super Series featuring TCR Asia. To close us out here on Sunday's racing action, Dan. Reasonable little race to finish us off, and the reverse grid certainly provided some entertainment.
Yeah, it certainly did. Unfortunately, it almost felt like the guys at the front there, they kind of went and got there as soon as they could, which meant we were sort of denied a protracted reverse grid spectacle as it was. Just also, of course, no Umar Abdullah 5th, across the line in 5th, but with his 2 5-second penalties, that will drop him back a position into 6th. Does finish far up ahead of Jiang Nung, that he won't drop 2 spots in the race. And yeah, unfortunately for Lu Qiren, all that fighting will effectively be for naught because their 5-second penalty will see them finish in 10th once those are applied to the race results. But your top 3 are unchanged as they came across the line. Haven't seen anything come up anyways for any of them. So Zhang Jingdong, Huang Doyun, and Max Hart. And yeah, saw it in qualifying, or Q2 in particular, as it turned out, as well as yesterday's race. But Zhang Jingdong has had some great pace around here, and honestly, just didn't look like he was under threat at any point. 144.7 late on in the race to boot as well. Fast lap of anyone in the field by half a second. And note that his teammates, their fastest laps are all on lap 2, lap 3, lap 4. And he's out there doing his fast lap on lap 14, just to spice things up out there, it seems.
Yep, so able to not only look after the tyre, but also extract the pace from it when the fuel had come out of the car as well. 15 laps was the journey. The Irishman will crawl from the 69 car for Max Hart, will be a podium to finish off the weekend. 2nd and 3rd in terms of things, it's probably those qualifying points that a little bit got away from him. Only 3rd in qualifying yesterday. Zhang Jingdong took the pole, 10 points on offer for that one. Sort of made sure that he didn't lose too much in race number 1 for Huang Doyun. He'll be very, very happy with a P1 and a P2 from the race weekend. Qualified 2nd as well. Picks himself up a nice bank of points. Might be enough to start going in pursuit of Max Hart, particularly if this circuit favours him when they come back again I believe in October will be the next round for TCR Asia here from the Burum International Circuit. So my apologies, it'll be 13th or 15th of September before the series will move to Ningbo International Circuit for the 11th to 13th of October. And final races of the series at this stage planned to be an invitational race at Macau. So that will not be a points earning race, but Ningbo will certainly round out the championship, and then some fun over at Macau. Getting invited to go over and racing in Macau, much the same as the Thailand Super Series got invited to go and race as a part of the Formula One race weekend at the Singapore Grand Prix last year was quite exciting. To see all the drivers, but you always take those opportunities when you get to go international and race in some really interesting cars and places. You never pass that up because you never know when the opportunity will come by again.
Yeah, you sure do indeed. Well, I can hear the music in the background, so maybe we are going to get some highlights here real quick to wrap up the racing action from the Chung International Circuit with TCR Asia race number 6 of their championship. It's been race 6 of everyone's championship today, which is always good to see. If we do get those highlights, we'll let them roll on what was what felt like a bit of a fast and furious 15-lap dash for them. But if not, we are back in 2 weeks' time. The next race weekend for the Super Series by B-Quik will be your Supercar GT categories, heading to the Sepang International Circuit. So GT3, GTM, GT4 and GTC will all make an appearance there in Malaysia for that. We also note we'll have 3 races for GT3, GTM and GT4 that weekend. We'll be making up for the lost race 6 that got washed out on the 11th of August. So that is when we go racing next. And then, as we've said, after that, we are not coming back until December. It's such a long gap, you sort of think. But by the sounds of it, Scott, I don't think we are going to have anything here. So I think we'll tune away here, I think, at this point in time and wrap up our broadcast here. But yeah, we are back in 2 weeks' time. It's after then we go on the very long break.
Yeah, so for the ladies and gentlemen that have been joining us right throughout the weekend, we thank you for your patronage, jumping on by and spending the weekend with us in terms of things we do actually enjoy, because we've got such a host of loving fans that join us right throughout the weekend, and we thank you very much for that. I'm looking forward to being back at Sepang on the 6th to the 8th of September, and we hope that you guys will be joining us then soon as well, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of everyone that makes this possible, on behalf of all the drivers, all the officials, all the stewards, everyone that makes the series possible, from the race control team to the marshals and everyone doing scrutineering and everything in between, to the fans as well, a big shout out to you for joining us right throughout the weekend, ladies and gentlemen. It's been a pleasure to bring you all of this racing action on behalf of TCR Asia, on behalf of Thailand Super Series, on behalf of Speed Cafe. We'll see you in 2 weeks' time for more Thailand Super Series supercar action from Sepang.
But yeah, that's the plan. We got to find out why 2 snapped. That's quite frustrating, especially as a team. As a team, we all want to win. But yeah, look, it is what it is, and we move on. I just like to say thanks to all my sponsors.
Yes.
These guys, they've gotten me here, and.
Okay, say thank you for responding. And Thai fans, you say, leave a comment to Thai fans, sir.
Thank you so much. What? ขอบคุณข้าว
ขอบคุณครับ
ขอบคุณครับ
Yes. Right there, actually ขอบคุณครับ ก็ขอบคุณสำหรับแฟนๆที่ซัพพอร์ตและให้การสนับสนุน Max Hard นั่นเองนะครับ ก็หวังว่าในสนามหน้าจะได้ร่วม